Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here once again. I'm just gonna give folks a couple seconds to trickle in before I intro our amazing meetup. We have an incredible panel here, and I'm so excited for everyone to be here. Okay, so this sports meetup. Sports come to live in April, and we wanted to dive into this topic and question why sports mean so much to people. Our team members aren't super sport fanatics or athletes in a game of sports, so our personal relation to sports is different from that of our panelists. But what we learned in talking to our panel is that sports can really be a form of self-expression and bring a lot of pride and meaning into people's lives. And there is an artistic nature to sports in a sense, and just like any other industry, an artist, or in this case, an athlete, can be exploited and capitalized on by the industry that is attached to this game that they love so much. There's so many past events of athletes being activists, thinking of Muhammad Ali's opposition to the Vietnam War, which led to his imprisonment, thinking of how even when he was a gold medalist at the Olympics, he wasn't allowed in the same venue as his white counterparts, leading into more recent events where Colin Kaepernick was the first athlete to not stand for the national anthem in protest of police brutality. It was extremely controversial at the time, and he was ridiculed for this, and he still doesn't work in the NFL today. A few years later, kneeling for the national anthem is now more common in protest against police brutality, but remains a controversial issue, and athletes are at the forefront of those demonstrations. Meanwhile, the N-word just announced over a high school loudspeaker while their female basketball team kneeled for the national anthem. Like that's happening right now. Through past and present, how does activism evolve in the world of sports is the question that we've sort of come to, especially because historically athletes are a major pioneer of social justice and change. We wondered how the careers of those who speak up are threatened when they do choose to speak up. And we are extremely grateful and very, very, very excited for our panel today. And thank you all so much for being here. So that is just a quick little intro of this meetup and what it's about.
Thank you. I am Lily Stiefel. I'm going to lead us in a moment of silence. We do this every month, and we dedicate our moment of silence to something specific. And I really want to use this time to dedicate a moment of silence for the athletes and the activists who have come before us, the athletes that we look up to, our idols, those that are continuing to make space for people to have access for sports, and also taking a moment of silence for the children and the adults who haven't had access to sports, who've struggled, who aren't able to play certain sports, whether it's ability, political structures that revolve around race and class. So let's join together in a moment of stillness. Thank you. I want to also do a land acknowledgement. I am currently in New York. My apartment here in New York is on Lenape land. And a land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to secure meaningful partnerships and inclusions in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. As many of us are settlers, immigrants, and descendants of those forcefully brought to the continent, our institutions were founded upon pollution and erasure of indigenous peoples whose land we are located on. We honor and we're grateful for the land that we occupy, and we recognize the ongoing damage of settler colonialism. Land acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of colonialism and the pursuit of truth and healing. This statement is from the Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center, and they took it from the California Indian Museum and Cultural Center in Santa Rosa, California. Okay. I use she, her pronouns. I identify as Black and mixed. I'm My people are from Germany, from Ireland, from New Orleans, from Honduras. They're Creole. They're from the larger African diaspora. And I'm going to take a second to name some of the women who came before me that are allowing me to show up to this space and show up to the conversation. And I like to do this by going down the matriarchal line. So I say, I am the daughter of Linda, who is the daughter of Peg, or Margaret, but I called her Nani, and she is the daughter of Florence. And I want to honor Gail Cabral and Carol Walker and my auntie Carla. I'm giving it over to you, Ariel.
Thank you, Lily. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariel Bastida. I am a member of the TMS team. I do PR and social media outreach. I consider myself to be an artist and an activist in some respects. I identify with the pronoun she, her, hers. My people are from Mexico and Poland, so I identify as mixed and Mexican. I am going to honor the women in my family as well on the matriarchal line. So I'm the daughter of Laura, who is the daughter of Rose, who is the daughter of Mary, shouting out my grandma Esther Bastida on my other side and her mother, Macedonia Toledo. I am in Chicago. And so the land acknowledgement for Chicago is that it's located on the traditional unceded homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations. However, there are other tribes such as Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sac, and Fox that also called the area that I am on home.
We did this last month and it was my favorite thing. We did community guidelines as an actual community. So we're going to do those again this time. Some of you you already know the community guidelines. Make sure that you just jump in and say your name and then say and just go. So I'll practice it and then Ariel will follow and then we'll just kind of jump in. We'll give you space to just move into the community guidelines and do your part. So number one is engagement is encouraged. So raise your hand, ask a question, comment. We encourage you to be engaged. There's no wrong way to be engaged. There's no wrong way to take up space. And just thank you for being here. Ariel?
Yeah. And then I'll popcorn in here. We have oops, ouch. So saying ouch if someone says something that hurts you and saying oops to genuinely apologize for the ways your intention did not match your impact. And then I'll popcorn it to one of our panelists. Do one of our panelists want to take the next one, number 3?
Yep, I'll take number 3. So I like this because I always tell people to stop saying sorry. So I'm sorry, instead of saying I'm sorry, say I'm sexy or sassy to break the habit of over apologizing. Amongst women, we say I'm sexy or I'm sassy in lieu of I'm sorry. I think that's great.
I'll pick up on number 4, move in, move out. Are you someone who knows they take up a lot of space in the conversation? Alternatively, do you prefer to listen and sometimes can't find the right moment to interject? Try to be mindful of these behaviors and move in and move out when needed. This helps other people to do the same.
All right, who's going to take the next one?
I can do that. Number 5 is identifiers. Name yours and respect others, e.g. pronouns and racial identifiers. For example, my pronouns are they, them. So
Thank you. Thank you. All right, who's taking number 6, community?
I can do it.
Yes.
Yeah, so mean what you say. We can't control other members' responses, but we can make sure we're putting thought into our words and being held accountable if need be.
Thank you, Kirsha. Number 7, anyone?
Confidentiality. Share your learning, not the other person's privacy. Ask permission from the person before sharing content outside of the group.
Thank you. All right, I'm just gonna call on someone. Bean, hey. You wanna read one?
Sure. 8, disagree with the idea, not the person. This is a space for constructive dialogue. Avoid making personal attacks and focus on I statements.
Thank you. I see Taylor. Taylor, do you wanna read one for us?
Yeah, number 9, moments of growth. TMS moderators see conflict as an opportunity for shared growth. We believe if the community guidelines are followed, this can be achieved.
And then Chucky, why don't you take us out?
All right. If you like it, let us know. We encourage members to snap or wave when they hear something that resonates with them. Sorry.
All good. Awesome. Yay. Thanks, team. So those are community guidelines. So just make sure that, when we're having these discussions, be mindful of these so we can have an open and honest conversation, but one that is also safe and promotes growth. We have with us an amazing group of athletes here today, starting with Sean Grevy, Lance Spencer, and Romeo Torain of 43 Oak. Then we'll hear from basketball player Chucky Humphries, who just took us out with the amazing reading of that 10th little community guideline. And then we have Trey Tipton of L.O.V.E, which is an organization that he started. And it's just incredible to have him here with us as well. I'm so excited to hear from him. We will have a Q&A after the panelists are done speaking, where all of you will have a chance to ask a question to any of our panelists. So if you think of a question during the panel, please write it down and raise your hand later, and we will give you the space to ask your questions. So as I mentioned, we have an amazing group of 3 hockey players here with us today, all connected to the 43 Oak Foundation. We have the organization's founder, Sean, with us, along with 2 young hockey players, Romeo and Lance, as I mentioned, and they're all going to be talking to us today on the diversity, discrimination, and access in the sports of hockey. So guys, thank you so much for being here on behalf of all of us. I'm going to give you all the floor and just take it away.
All right. Thanks for having us. We appreciate everybody being here, and we hope that we can give education to what's going on in the world of hockey. So my name is Sean Grevy. I am the founder of the 43 Oak Foundation, and I have here with me, I'm privileged to have here with me 2 of my players, Romeo Torain and also Lance Spencer. Both of these guys play for the organization and have played for my organization for years now. And I'm really excited that they're here to join us. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through some questions that we feel our answers could be informative. And we look forward to hearing responses back from anybody that has any questions. So I'll start it off with the first question that we have here, which is how do race and class prevent a person from having access to a sport, especially a sport like hockey, where you need a lot of special equipment. So I just want to start off by saying, actually, I dropped the ball by introducing the foundation. What the foundation is a hockey program that is focused on breaking the barrier to entry for underprivileged and minority youth who play the sport of ice hockey. The majority of our players are from the New York City metropolitan area, but we have kids from outside of that as well, and the foundation is growing rapidly every day. But what we're focused on is creating a place where kids can excel in the sport from any background. So to answer this question, I'm going to leave it up to my 2 boys.
I'm just going to answer this first question as well, piggyback on all of the things that you said, Sean. For this sport, playing it for so long and being able to play at the highest level at a young age, at 11 years old, to play at the highest level and race and class added into that, the access from the sport different, like compared from me or anybody else on my team. For me, it was a little harder because the ways to get to practice, having only my dad, the only driver in my house to drive me to practice, but also, other kids on my team who have parents who both drive or even have like a personal driver. It's a little harder for me. Also the equipment and the ice time, it's as a kid growing up in New York City, ice time is very hard to be found around. And also compared, if you want to say, I can use in a real life, for example, but when I played for a team in New Jersey when I was younger, there was a kid on my team who actually came from somewhere where, they have money. And the only thing, if it came to ice time or anything, the first thing he could do is literally walk into his backyard and go skate in his ice rink in his backyard. But for me, it was a little different. I had to, lug my equipment to, probably the nearest recreational center. And it was a lot of time and effort being put into that and a lot of hard work and dedication.
I completely agree with what Sean and Romeo said. Like, there's not really much more to say besides like just adding on to, it's all about equipment, ice time, and connections. Like, if you don't have any of that, you're not going anywhere. And I learned that at a young age, coming from ice hockey in Harlem. Like, I got to play and I had fun, but it just wasn't enough to get me to the next level. And different organizations like 43 Oak, that's what they're there for, to help those kids that really truly like feel amazing about the sport and really want to play at a high level, they could help them go to the next level.
Sorry, if I just want to add one last thing. If you want to understand how unique these two individuals are, I'm just going to break down the statistics for you in New York City real quick. So in order to play NCAA collegiate hockey, again, you need to play some level of travel hockey. Travel hockey is a AA or AAA level hockey, generally AAA level hockey. In the city of New York, in Manhattan, there are 2 travel hockey teams, 2. So that means per age group, there is an A and a AA for 2 hockey teams. Per hockey team, there are 20 players. That means if you are a 14-year-old in New York City and you play travel hockey, you are one of 80 in Manhattan. Millions and millions of people in Manhattan, and you are one of 80. So if you want to talk about an elite group of people, that is your elite crew. And so when you're looking at players like Lance and Romeo, who come from Uptown, these are kids who had very dedicated parents who did everything they could to make sure that their kids showed up to the hockey rink, and they broke the mold. And I am fortunate to have them as a part of our organization, and that they are sitting here today talking to you about their hockey story, because they both play at a very high level. Romeo just committed NCAA, and Lance is playing 16U AAA as we speak. So they both have a bright future. So anyway, I think it's important, the statistics on that. Number 2, how does access to sports change a young person's life? I'm going to leave it open to you guys first, and then I'll jump in at the end.
Okay, access to sports changed a young man's life or a young person's life, especially me. It keeps them occupied with something. You know, it keeps them from doing the wrong and doing the right. You know, it keeps you, it has you also keeping active as a physical thing, not always an emotional thing, but also a physical thing as well. It keeps you out of trouble. An example for that I would give as living in New York City, as we know, New York City is known for its beautiful buildings, amazing landmarks, but it's also known for, you know, a lot of, you know, bad things like, you know, crime, people getting into little gangs and, you know, doing bad things that they're not supposed to be doing. So as I can say, playing hockey in my years and actually starting at a young age, at the age of 3 playing hockey, it's kept me out of the bad, and it's gotten me to places and taken me around to every, not every place, but special places. It's taken me around the world. So I have a lot to thank for hockey.
To piggyback onto what Romeo said, like being able to go places and see things that other people wouldn't have access to is all because of the sport I play. Like I come from Harlem. There's not a whole bunch of players from Harlem that play travel hockey. Like I don't really know a lot besides like the couple people that me, Sean know, and Romeo know. And the other kids, like I feel like they don't have access to like things that I have access to. Like they don't really get to leave Harlem or leave New York City. Like I've been to a lot of different places in the US, out of the US, all because of hockey. And I feel like if it wasn't for hockey, I wouldn't have been able to be there or see things.
What are the layers of access and needs for any player to succeed at the sport? And what do people not think about or realize in terms of what dedication looks like? I think we probably answered both of those questions just now. And I think Romeo's description, especially about just, you know, what kind of dedication it takes. I mean, Lance, why don't you tell the story about how you get to the hockey rink 5 days a week for practice? And then where do you go on the weekends? What do you do every weekend?
Well, when I was younger, I would have to take the train with my mom with my hockey bag. My mom, my brother, and we would have our hockey bags, our hockey sticks. We would take the train from Harlem to Chelsea Piers and go play. But now, as I got older, I started playing travel hockey. My mom got a car, and then like pretty much every day for the week, we're out in Jersey playing hockey. It's an hour and 15 drive going, hour coming back. There's tolls, gas money, everything. And that's every day. My mom still works. She has to take care of me and my brother and my grandma now. It's a whole bunch of different sacrifices. Like the dedication that I have to hockey is crazy. Like when I was younger with tournaments and stuff, like especially like Thanksgiving tournaments, like I would have to miss Thanksgiving dinner with my family. Like it would be me and my mom on the road going to a tournament. We have like, it's crazy the amount of dedication that had to go into it in order for me to be where I am today.
Just to add on that too, Lance, I totally agree with you on that 100% because, not being the only one, and I have two older brothers as well. When growing up, me playing hockey and then my oldest brother playing hockey and then my middle brother playing basketball, it was hard for my parents to juggle all three of us at times. So there'd be one weekend where my dad would take me and he would have me for the weekend and take me to my games. And then my brother would be on his own. So he would have to travel on the train to all of his games and have a teammate pick him up. And then some weekends it would be my dad and the oldest brother or even the middle brother, and then it'd be on my own with a teammate for the weekend. So it was a little hard to, juggle the three of us and also, get everything in check. Also, with that being said as well, with Lance, with all the hockey and, 5 days a week and traveling out to New Jersey, I had kind of the same experience as him, just in another area. I had to travel out to Long Island. It was about 45 minutes to an hour. And, every day I would have to leave school, head straight from school to the Bronx, go meet my dad at his job. And then we would go out to, Long Island. I have practice for, I'd be in the rink about 4 to 5 hours. And then I get back home and, it's 11 o'clock at night. And if I didn't finish any of my homework, I have to get that done, then go to school and repeat the same thing over and over again every day. So, it's a lot, but if you're really dedicated and, you really want to make something out of it, you're willing to be determined and put your mind to it.
Is there a certain amount of pressure to be successful in hockey, knowing the amount of money that your family has put towards your training and how much you have sacrificed? Bro?
Yes, there has been. Like I said earlier, playing at the top-notch level, it requires a lot of money being put out from, your parents, and it could be stressful at times. My parents, we're not, very big in money and everything, but, my parents worked their hardest to help me, play at the top level, the highest level and succeed in the highest level. And so I'm grateful that in my years of playing this sport and also playing at the highest level, coming across, meeting Sean and being part of the 43 Oak Foundation with him, helping me through my years of playing and succeeding to the next level, and even to now to getting ready to play NCAA hockey this upcoming fall. I have a lot to thank him and my parents, because they've helped me along, probably the last 5 or 6 years. If it wasn't for those three, I probably wouldn't be playing this sport probably. And if I was playing this sport, I probably wouldn't be playing at a high level. I'd probably be playing at a lower tier level and, just playing average hockey.
I feel like there is a lot of pressure, especially since I've been playing for almost 14 years. Like, I feel like there's no giving up now. Like, I'm gonna keep going until the wheels fall off. Like, there's no ifs, and or buts about that. Like, my mom has sacrificed too much for me and my brother for me to just say, oh, it's over. Like, I'm going to continue to play hockey until I'm physically not able to.
What do you experience in the sport of hockey when it comes to racial discrimination?
Everything in the book. It could be jokes. It could be physical actions. It could be anything. Like, I've pretty much gotten everything. Like, I remember my first time receiving anything that, like, made me feel, like, hurt because of what someone said was when I was around either 7 or 8. It was, like, my second season playing travel hockey. Played on the New York City Cyclones, and we were playing a Long Island team. And every time we played a Long Island team, I always felt the energy from the other team that they just didn't like me, only because of who I was as a person. It was my skin color. And someone said something to me. They called me the N-word, and I was young, so I didn't really react crazily. I didn't like say anything. I just went to my coach. I told my coach what happened. Nothing really happened, but like I've just received everything. As I got older, people have become more comfortable with trying to say something, and that's when I've been able to put my foot down. So now I play contact hockey. I could really do whatever I want. Like, if someone says something to me, I don't really have to say anything back to them. Either I go score a goal or I just hit them. It's just that simple.
Yep, the same thing. I agree with him. I've dealt with so many racial things or things that have been said or done to me in my time. When I was playing on my Islanders team in Long Island, we went to a tournament one weekend, and I had another defensive partner on my line who I played with. He was the same color skin as me. So we had gotten, not me and him, but a kid from the other team, the opposing team, we got in a little altercation in front of the net, and we were jawing at each other. And the next thing you know, he said something that was out of context that had to deal with our skin color. Now, me and my defense partner weren't going to back down from it, but, and we're old enough to stand up for ourselves. So we both launched at him, but then we realized, we don't want to get ourselves a penalty or make something critical for our team, where we have to kill it off and then it destroys us. So we launched at him, but we kind of, drew back a little bit, and we just said, you know what, forget it. We laughed at him because we were already winning. And then getting back to the bench, just listening to it in my head, it's just like, it's not really tolerated. And it's like, it hurts. It really hurts to hear those words being said in the sport. I've had kids on other teams from the other bench say the basketball court's that way, or, you can go do this, go play football. It's not cool to be said in the hockey community. Hockey community can also be loving and caring, but it can also be toxic. It has its perks and then it has its downfalls. And that is one downfall you don't want to hear as a minority playing the sport.
And what we're setting out to do is change the hockey culture, right? We want to change this thinking immediately because for far too long, these players have been forced to keep their mouths shut on the ice when this happens, and it's swept under the rug, and it's just simply not okay. And it's going to take bulldogs to put a stop to it. And I can promise you that I am one of those bulldogs, and I'm working very hard at doing that. And, that's a big part of what we do as well, is mentorship within the program, to work with players like Romeo and Lance and let them know that we have their backs, that these things will not go unnoticed. So this is a great question. How many years have you guys played hockey for? How many coaches have you had been of color? And did the atmosphere change when you had a coach who looked like you?
I've been playing hockey for almost 14 years. I've had one coach that was a person of color, and yes, atmosphere was changed. I felt more comfortable around him. He was like one of the only coaches that I felt like he understood what I was going through in terms of like the drive from New York to Jersey, the dedication of having to leave school, rush home, hurry up, or my mom come pick me up for me to get to the rink. Or I feel like he understood what I was going through, because I feel like he went through similar situations himself, also because he was a person of color.
I totally agree on that 100%. And I've played the sport for 18 years. I've been playing since I was 3 years old, and I've only had one coach who was of color. My coach understood a lot of things that I was going through, and that's why I connected with him more than my other coaches at the time. There was one time where I skipped practice because I had schoolwork and I was busy, and I didn't tell my coach, and I should have told him. But anyways, he came to the weekend, we had a game, and my coach didn't play me. He basically sat me for majority of the game. I only got to see the ice about 2 shifts, and that was it. And that just broke me down. My other coach who of color, he kind of understood what my thing was. He was like, you know what, whenever things are, if you don't think you're going to make practice or you're going to be late, don't text, my other coach, text me and I'll tell him, because he'll understand from me, and he'll realize that, at least you reached out to me, and that, you're not going to make it, or, you're trying your hardest. And it was kind of a really close bond between me and him for the last 3 years, I have to say.
In a predominantly white sport, is it sometimes hard connecting with your fellow team members? How does it feel having other teammates of color?
I feel like it's kind of a challenge to be accepted by certain people. I feel like even though I haven't really experienced much from my teammates, I felt energy and I felt like I just didn't belong. So I've definitely taken myself out of certain places or certain situations, like their little friend groups through the team and stuff. I didn't really like intermingle with certain people. But in the past, what year is that? It was like 2018, 2019 season, I think. I had multiple people of color on my team, and I just felt like it was definitely my favorite season of hockey. So I felt accepted. I felt like I got along with everyone on my team, because it was just such a great and knitted team. Like everyone was just accepting of each other. There was no problems with racism or anything. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I totally agree with you on that, Lance. In my first couple of years of playing AAA hockey, that I've dealt with that. I've seen, little friend groups of the other skin colors that, that I didn't really fit in at times, I felt like. But, they, along the years, being closer and closer with my teammates, and also even having two other hockey players on my team that was of skin color. It made me feel more comfortable, and feel more accepted onto the team, and also connect with those guys because they're going through the same issues as what I'm going through maybe. So I was pretty fortunate to play on two teams where I had at least one other player of skin color, and it made me feel comfortable to, talk with them or even relate some things throughout my hockey career.
How has the rise in attention towards Black Lives Matter manifested itself in the game and within hockey teams? Bro?
Yeah, I'll start this one up because I actually got to speak this out with my team this past year because my coach, he understood me a little bit. He didn't understand me fully, but he understood, because I'm a player of color that I should, address this to my team. So it opens their eyes up a little bit and, actually, makes them reconsider or just think things, make sure that it keeps them aware of who's on their team, and if there's a player of skin color, maybe sit down and have a chat with them. I've had guys on my team this year. My coach, told me, he's like, you could speak to the guys about this whole situation and make sure you address it to them, And I did. I talked to my team, and after the whole situation was addressed, I had some guys on my team come up to me and say, if you have any, problems, you can always text me or call me. If there's any kids on opposing teams that say any, things that are, criticism or, racial slurs, I'll back you up and I'll, fight for you because you're one of us. You're welcome. You're in our family. You're part of us. You're family. Having 30 other guys on the team, it makes you feel, like you're, like Sean said earlier, the majority out of the minority. So I felt like I was at home. I felt like I had another family that was all behind me 100%.
Thank you so much. I want to just give Romeo and Lance a chance to have some final words, and you, Sean, as well, like final reflections, maybe like, a final message before we round up this little segment and move on. Also to the larger community, as you have questions, put them in the chat or just hold on to them and we'll have a chance to ask them later. But first off, thank you so much for all the sharing and for everything that you have said so far. I just want to give you a chance to kind of round it up and see if there's anything that hasn't been said that you feel is important to just name before we pause.
Bro?
What I'm gonna leave off with is that this is with any sport. You have rights to play any sport, and you can't let anyone else tell you otherwise. You can't let anyone stop you from achieving your goals. Stay dedicated and do everything that you could possibly do. If you get, extra ice time or even in any other sport, if you get extra time to work and train and perfect your game, do it. Don't complain because, you don't want to complain or you just want to utilize all the time because not a lot of kids our color skin, get the chances that we may get. So you got to utilize it and make it count.
I want to say just to anyone else who's like playing hockey, like just have fun, like try to enjoy yourself because you're never going to get to enjoy those moments again. Like I think back to different championships that my team has won, different games that I felt like we just played our best. Like I miss those moments. And I've realized that in certain moments, I didn't really have as much fun as I wanted to. I feel like I was being selfish to like just myself, not even to the team, just myself. And I feel like I could have had better moments. And I feel like if you have fun, like everything will fall in order, like everything will fall in line, like everything will most likely be okay if you're able to enjoy yourself and do what you have to do to make things right.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, you guys. And yes, just if anyone has any questions, as we said, write them down, hold on to them. We will come back and we will do a Q&A. I know I have some questions that are in my brain already that I've been talking to these guys for a while and now I'm just getting new questions. So just write them down, hold on to them, and we will come back to them at the end. I would love to intro our second speaker. His name is Chucky Humphries. He's a 24-year-old professional basketball player and proud vegan, currently residing in Portugal, hailing from the small town of Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. He can correct me if I pronounce that wrong, or the Pennsylvania people can. Nope, PA, Philadelphia. I read the state wrong. Don't mind me. That's sorry, everyone. But he won 2 conference championships during his time at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Oh no, Pennsylvania, great. In his free time, he mentors and trains at-risk kids, hoping to serve as the role model that they need. We are going to drop his info in the chat, so you can go ahead and follow him. And Chucky, thank you so much for joining us. He's going to tell us about his experience and just sort of talk to us in a grand presentation about his life in sports. And we're so happy to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on here. Hello, everyone. As she said, my name is Chucky Humphries. Aliquippa, you were close. I'm not bashing for it. But so I grew up in Aliquippa. It's a small town outside of Pittsburgh. And initially back in the early 80s, 70s, where I come from, there was a steel mill there. And as you know, a steel mill provides jobs for a lot of people. So the economy where I was from was booming. A lot of jobs, a lot of money, a lot of people, a lot of things going for us. That steel mill shut down. And as you know, once the jobs get shut down, poverty comes in, violence, drugs, a lot of things like that. So I was born in 97. I was born and raised in the project homes, poor. I've seen a lot of things throughout my life: gangs, murders, violence, domestic violence, broken homes. Like, there's a lot of things that I've, witnessed growing up throughout my life. And basketball was my escape. And also an escape for everybody else where I come from. So it was pretty much either like make or break for sports. And that's what we're known for. We're really known for football. I don't know if anyone here follows the NFL, but we pretty much have almost the most Hall of Famers in the NFL, coming from a small town like where I'm from. Darrelle Revis, Ty Law, Mike Ditka, Tony Dorsett, all of those guys come from our city where I'm located. So growing up, seeing these things, I wanted to become that. I wanted to be a professional athlete. I definitely wanted to rise above my situation. Although it wasn't easy, that was pretty much what my mind was 100% forward on and what I wanted to be in life. Got to high school. We had a nice team. We won a state championship. I managed to get a full scholarship. And pretty much when I got to college, that's whenever I was able to get outside of my environment and understand where I came from and why things were the way it was. Because, it's basically like almost like systemic racism. Like, I grew up in project homes. I grew up very poor. There's not a lot of opportunity. We only think that sports is our only way out. And, and it's hard to even make it out in sports because we have a lot of great athletes, but you can very easily get caught up in the life of, living in the area that you live in. But fortunately, I was able to make it out. And once I got to school, I started to understand more about where I came from and why certain things were a certain way, like poor education or lack of money, lack of the platform to go to college, because my parents didn't finish college or anything like that. I did this on my own pretty much. And that Colin Kaepernick situation, that was about 4 years ago. That was my first year. That's pretty much what started it, whenever it started to actually mean something to me about racism in sports and stuff like that. I was a freshman in college, and my first initial reaction to that was I basically was getting what the media was feeding to me. And what they were saying was, oh, he's disrespecting the flag, he's disrespecting the country. And for a second, I started to follow that. Like, man, I think he's pretty wrong for that. But I started to think for myself and started to think outside the box and stop thinking like everyone else and actually understand Kaepernick and his reasons. Once I did that, I'm like, oh, he's not a bad guy. Why is everyone bashing him for this? He's obviously speaking up on an event that's very clear about what's going on in America, was very important in America. and for me as an athlete, I'm like, we have a platform ourselves and we need to use that. And it started to become a great thing to see other athletes, see it become a trend where athletes speak up, use their voice and understand and help other people understand, what's going on in this country to put a stop to it, which is like racism and stuff. But there are also other things that could be conflicting as well, where if an athlete speaks up, like Colin Kaepernick, he doesn't have a job right now. For a college athlete, if something happens, that might not be looked upon very well to your coaches or the higher ups, which means like the school president, the athletic director, even donors, because donors play a big part in the schools and how they do things and stuff. If donors, they give money to the program and stuff. If they don't like something, they might not give that money in. That might, mess the program up for the next couple of years. So all of those things play a certain factor. And like if one of us athletes were to kneel during the anthem and and someone wouldn't like it, I could lose my scholarship. Like, and then what happens for me is, I go back to where I came from. I don't have the necessary opportunities to make it out and do the things what I want to do in life. So for me, I think that my ultimate goal in life is to just keep pushing for my athletic career, keep trying to break this generational gap or curse or however you want to call it, actually have money, buy my mom a house, do those things, generate wealth. And I want to also teach kids where I'm from, certain things that our schools don't teach us that, other people may not know of. Because once I was able to get out of where I came from, I started to actually learn more about life because, like I said, I'm a product of systemic racism, where it's like I'm statistically not supposed to be in this position right now. Like the odds of me being here are like less than 1%, but I made it. And regardless if I'm lucky or not, I want to give that game back to kids, and I want to push them to be the best they want to be at, whether it's sports, music, whatever they want to do. I want to help them just keep pushing forward to whatever their dreams and goals are and not get like clouded up into other things like that could be holding them back, whether it's hanging out, with people that are doing the wrong things at the wrong time or whatever the case is. And then also I want to just shed light on some historical factors because, like I said, a poor education is the biggest thing about what's going on in America. We don't know our history technically. And if a child doesn't know their history, when they're growing up, they're not going to think so much of themselves. So there's a lot of things that key factor into my life and how I speak of things. But, I've faced a couple interactions with people who don't like the things that I have to say. And I learned to deal with it. I know that I can't fight fire with fire. And I also just, I try to educate that person, but, if I can't, then that's pretty much their problem. I hope that they can find peace in themselves one day. But recently, before I came out here to Portugal, I was getting my car fixed, and this lady, she was working on my car, and I forget what we were talking. We were talking about the NBA though. Basketball obviously came up in the conversation. We were talking about the NBA, and then she said, "Oh, I love watching the NBA. I just wish they wouldn't speak up on politics. I just want them to play basketball." And like for me as a basketball player, that felt like a basically slap in the face. I had to take a step back mentally, before I got mad or anything, and just had to take a deep breath. And, I didn't say anything to her. I just let it go. I wanted to go back and explain to her, because like, what if I just told her, I think that you should just work on cars and not speak up on politics or anything. There was a lot of things that key factor into that, but there's people out there that just think that. They think that basketball players or athletes in general, we're just like a tool or whatever, and we don't deserve to speak up on certain things, or we don't have a right. Like we just play the game and then that's it. Like the old saying, shut up and dribble, you know? And I think I like what's going on here. A lot of athletes are more so speaking up, you know, they're using their voices, and I want to be a part of that. You know, that way when I look back at it and when America's pushing for change and, you know, when change does come, you know, I could proudly say, like, you know, I did my work. I did my fair share of that. You know, I had my story, and it also helps for the younger generation. It helps them feel more comfortable with speaking up and stuff, and, you know, understanding that these things aren't right and it's okay to speak up on it, because a lot of people will just want to shut you out or shut you up. You know, I had a close mentor. He's older and white. And he told me, like, he messaged me one day and he just basically shared his personal feelings. And I'm not mad at him for it. You know, like I said, I know I can't fight fire with fire. So the text message said, like, you should stop with the Black activism stuff. You know, it's looking disrespectful to all the white people that helped you out in life. And I'm quoting this, but it's not word for word. It's looking disrespectful to the white people that helped you out in life. And you know, nobody Black helped you out and helped you get to where you got in life, you know, so I don't know why you're speaking up so much. So, you know, obviously these thought processes, the thought process of these people who shared these things with me are, you know, not correct. At least I think that they're not correct, or at least like not nice or whatever. So that's why I say we need to shed more light on these things and educate more. You know, obviously they're older, and once you get older in life, the things that you learn or seen, you don't think of it as a problem. You lived your whole life that way, and it doesn't seem like a problem. Like, it was never a problem before. Why are we saying something now? That's kind of like how the mindset is. So that's why I want to like help educate. And I always want to touch up with kids. I love kids. You know, I was a kid once, so I understand what kind of impact I can have on kids. And I try to make that positive impact moving forward with what I do with my career and then after my career as well.
Wow. What an amazing story, and what an amazing sort of place that you've come to, where it's just like we see the applause happening, the applause emojis happening. Yeah, I'm stuck on this because Chucky and I have had a conversation before sort of going off of this. And one of the quotes that he gave me was that we are not our sport, just our sport. And I'm really stuck on that. And just to hear your process of going through that and then coming out to this outcome where you just want to help kids is pretty incredible. And just those two moments, right, of that mentor saying that, and then that person working on the car saying that just out of pocket. It's hard. And you touched on activism and how, you know, it's tricky as an athlete because you don't want to lose your scholarship. And yet, you know, as you so eloquently put it, it's like kids need to know where they're coming from. And then there's athletes who need to speak up because they have that platform. I guess as we have a little bit more time, I would just love to hear about your experience in Portugal, and if it's been any different, or if it's been the same, or if you've been better received, or anything like that. I'm actually just really curious to hear the difference, if there is any, coming from America and going now to overseas.
So my experience here, I got here my first week, and then COVID hit out here, like an extreme outbreak. So I've only got to have like 3 practices, and then they kind of shut everything down. My teammates live far away, but within that week or two since I got here, I've been able to talk to people, and obviously everyone talks about, you know, they want to talk about America. They want to know what it's like over here, over America and stuff. And in a way, sometimes it feels not embarrassing, but it just seems the best. I'm trying to think the best way I want to put it. I don't want to say embarrassing, but somewhere in that area, because when I come out here, you know, I want to talk. They talk about how great their country is and stuff. And don't get me wrong, like I do love my country. I do think that, you know, we can do things better. I hope to push towards better and stuff. I'm not like totally against my country. I want better for my country. But then it's like, you know, the education that they're getting on us right now was like, basically when I got over here, it was like a week after the Capitol storming. So like everyone's like over here, they're like, man, what's going on with you guys? Y'all are storming the Capitol and stuff. To them, that's unheard of. They never would think of doing anything like that. They never heard of anything like that, you know, and it was just because of like the president change, because Trump lost the election. Speaking so far of like when I talk to people about America and stuff. But all in all, my experience out here has been great. The time difference is about 5 hours, but it's been a great experience. I haven't got to travel a lot because of COVID. They don't let you leave the city really, unless you have like a worker's pass to be in that other city you want to go to. But I live like next to the beach, so I have seen the beach here. The weather's great. It's been pretty much the 70s throughout these last couple of months. When I first got here, it was pretty cold though. I'm soaking up a lot of this. Like I said, you know, I grew up poor. This is the dream for me. So like, I'm trying to really soak up a lot of this, but I understand also why I'm here, and I want to keep working and keep making my money here and and make a name for myself out here, and then be able to give back to where I came from. All in all, it's been a great experience though.
That sounds awesome.
I have a question for you too, which is, you were talking about being in that place of like folks shutting you down, all of the different politics that are at play when it comes to being a student athlete, when it comes to being a player, and the space that's given around just the sport versus your whole humanity and all of the identities that you bring and your opinions, whether they're political or otherwise. And I'm wondering what that dynamic looks like. I mean, you said you haven't had a lot of experience, but like, is the connection between activism and sports similar on your team in Portugal? Are the players, like, what does the diversity of the players look like in terms of, ethnicity, nationality, language, etc.?
Pretty much everyone here. I'm the only American on my team. Everyone else is from Portugal. There's pretty much a mix like of black and white, but I'm not sure. Like some people have lighter skin, but they may have some black in them. I'm the only one from America. Everyone speaks Portuguese, but American is like the second language though. So they all pretty much speak that pretty good, which helps me out because I knew nothing about Portugal before I got here. I didn't know anything. I didn't know the language. I'm still learning the language now, just to benefit what I'm trying to do on the court and stuff. But as far as that, it's been pretty nice though.
Amazing.
Yeah, what other question? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I want to respect time, but I just have one last thing to ask you and to throw at you before we move over to Trey, which is you talked a lot about wanting to give back to where you're from and give back to your community and help educate younger kids. So I guess my question is, if you could say anything to the young athletes from your area, following your footsteps, knowing everything that you've gone through, knowing what you've heard, knowing the struggles that you've seen around you in sports and professional settings and in student settings, what kind of advice or tips or encouragement would you offer to the kids that you're hoping to inspire?
I would just tell them to stay away from any negative situations. It's hard because, you want to have fun. You're young. There's some things that you don't understand. It'll be hard to understand as well. I would just tell them to stay away from anything negative, take time to themselves, whatever their craft is, whatever they want to do, like as long just do something though. Don't just Don't just sit around. If school is your thing, read books. Spend your time reading books or whatever. Do whatever you got to do to make it out of that environment, because it becomes like a third world. And a lot of people get stuck in there and they want to stay there for the rest of their lives. And for me, like, it's been 5 years since, I've pretty much gone. I don't really go back home a lot. I do for holidays to see family and stuff, but I don't go back a lot. I've seen that place for 19 years. So, I want to see the world. I've been to Florida for school. I've been to Philadelphia for school. I went to Indiana. Then I traveled, as we're playing games and stuff, traveled to Canada to play games. Now I'm in Portugal. Like, this is a blessing. And, I just want to tell the kids, do whatever you have to do to make it out of there. But don't forget where you came from. There's a lot of things that you went through that'll make you tough, and it'll prepare you for life and prepare you for those uncomfortable situations. Just embrace it all. Embrace it and do what you got to do to make it out. And but don't forget where you came from.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Just throwing it out there to our audience and to everyone who's watching. If you have questions that you feel like you want to ask Chucky after the panel is done, please, just a reminder to write them down. I see some people jotting some stuff down. So shout out to you folks. And I will pass it over to Lily for our intro of our third panelist. Chucky, thank you so much once again for sharing your insight. That was absolutely incredible.
No problem. Thank you guys for listening.
Okay. Trey Tipton is in his 7th year as a wide receiver from the University of Pittsburgh Panthers. He's endured many injuries and led his way to founding an on-campus mental wellness group called L.O.V.E, which stands for Living Out Victoriously Every Day. In addition to helping other students manage the stress of college, L.O.V.E also gives lectures and at senior and junior high schools. Welcome, Trey. I'm putting his socials and L.O.V.E socials in the chat right now.
How's everybody doing? Can you guys hear me fine?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
We can hear you.
All right, Sean, thank you. Chuck, I haven't seen you in a while, man, but now I understand that I haven't seen you in a while because you've been in Portugal. So it's good to see everybody that's here. Thank you guys for allowing me to share myself in this space. I appreciate your guys' time and appreciate just being able to speak about what I'm currently going through as a college athlete. So since we're talking about race, I'm kind of just going to start about my lifestyle and what I've been through as an athlete. Started out in Hazelwood, PA, which is not a really great area by any means or by any stretch. And then as I got older, I ended up moving to a more rural area in terms of going to school. I was one of 3 Black kids in the whole school. And it was very tough. It was very difficult. I heard every single name that you could think of in the book. And then on the back end, it was almost like, okay, you're too Black for my school, but you're not Black enough for the other school. So I constantly went through the situation where I was battling with myself on where was I supposed to sit? Where was my mental? There was games where I heard people call me the N-word and I was forced to sit there and take it on the chin. There's times and times when I had to face coaches in their face, and as they bashed me in derogatory ways, I had to sit there and again, take it on the chin. As Black student athletes, I feel like it's always been difficult to basically express who you are or do the things that you want to do. As Chucky talked about before, social activism, it was very difficult for him just with people that knew him or knew of him. And I also have the same type of experiences with the people around me that I thought cared about me, but in reality, they cared about what I could do for them. And as Black athletes, we constantly found ourselves in those type of situations, now leading to Colin Kaepernick in that situation, what he currently is going through. He no longer has a job for speaking up about what he believes in. And that's a difficult situation, especially as a Black college athlete, because during that time that had happened, I was a sophomore in college. And one of my teammates had decided to take a knee, and he at the time had told him that he was disrespectful. He didn't know what he was doing. He deserved to be kicked off the football team and a multitude of things. Fast forward, I want to say until last year, the Black Lives Matter movement, me and a couple other athletes decided that we had to speak up against this situation, but not only this situation, to the fact that people weren't talking about the situation that was very important to the Black student athletes at the University of Pittsburgh. And these people were people who were supposed to be in charge of their Black athletes. What's crazy is 60% of the student population, not even the student population, 60% of the student athlete population is scrutinized, but not only scrutinized, put into situations where they're constantly battling for the University of Pittsburgh, to not have your school battle back for you when situations like the Black Lives Matter movement came about and they didn't say anything for 9 days straight. But also in Pittsburgh, there's a situation where there was a shooting at a mosque and they reacted immediately. So we had brought this to the attention, and then we also had brought it to the attention. And at the end of the discussion, what he had ended up saying to us, he said, "I'm just a white guy who's got this position." Now, I don't mean to make the room very difficult, but as a Black athlete, especially playing for a university, and you would think that you make the university a lot of money, that you would get some type of respect. The only answer that we ever gotten was, "I'm just a white guy who got this position." And that became very difficult, not only for me, but for the other student athletes at the university. And here's why. Is because we're often put in situations where we're told not to speak. Even for Chucky, for instance, he was put in a situation where somebody that he thought cared about him told him that he shouldn't be speaking about the situation that he speaks about. Again, shut up and play. So does that make us a slave? Does that make us these players that are no longer allowed to say anything about the things that we care about? Are we not allowed to speak out and speak about the things that we enjoy? And with that said, when people say, "Oh, you guys are just professional athletes, you shouldn't speak," well, majority of the people who speak up about these things are professional in their own right. Right or wrong, they're professional in their own right with that understood. So just because we're professional in a different field, that doesn't mean that we can't speak. That doesn't make any sense. And I've come to realize that sports has become its own sense of slavery. And what do I mean by this? For a long period of time, players are not paid. We're not paid to go out there and make the school billions of dollars, millions of dollars. We're not paid to go out there to make sure that every single dime that they make off of the jerseys that are sitting on our backs is going into our pocket. We're going out there to play for our families. And people say, "Well, you get a scholarship to play." How does this even add up to racism? Here's your example. You get a scholarship to play, but now put this into perspective. Out of 325 days of the year, I'm legitimately with the football team. I have not seen my family on any holiday in 7 years. Now, what does that say to you? I spend multiple time for the university. Everything that I do is for the university. Every chance that I get to breathe has been for the university. But still, with that said, the university didn't take the time to speak for us. So with that said, me and a couple athletes got together and we're like, we're not going to let this happen. We're not going to sit here and stand here and let a group of people who have no respect for us speak out for us. So we decided to speak for ourselves. And this is why I find this is very important to tell you guys, is simply because this is a major Power 5 university that's supposedly supposed to be top tier. But with that said, it's unfair to say that when top tier is only for top tier of people who are of the majority. Okay, so for example, as a student athlete, I'm only allowed to take certain types of classes in order for me to be productive within the system. What does that mean? I'm only allowed to take communication classes. I'm only allowed to take sociology classes. I can't be a doctor. I can go into business, but I can't go into engineering because it takes up too much time for my main goal, and that's to play football. As a student athlete as well, we get told certain things. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't want to give away too much tea, but the reality behind it is you are a student athlete. I'm going to show you again, and please do not blink. You're a student athlete. Now, what does that mean? There's times where I wasn't even able to do business school like how I attended because we had to travel. We had to wake up. We had to be up early. We had to do all these things where people legitimately don't understand that, like, yo, as college athletes, you're legitimately a slave. Like, I get 2 weeks to go enjoy my summer. Then after those 2 weeks, I go right back to school. So, for example, for some of you guys who are still in high school or you guys are going into college, I believe the two young gentlemen who were speaking before, one of you guys are going into college. College sports is very difficult because a lot is asked out of you. Okay, so for example, we go to school from fall, winter, summer, spring. So that means I only get 2 weeks out of the year to myself. And the rest of those weeks is spent with the football team. So with that said, I've been going to school nonstop for 7 years. And hopefully in hopes of getting a better education. And I say in hopes because I'm still having to wake up. I still have to study the same way that regular college students have to study. I still have to get up and do the same things as a student athlete, but then I also have to take my book serious. Now, most coaches don't care if you take your book serious, but they're going to do whatever it takes for you to graduate because it gives them an opportunity to say that we care about your kids. The reality behind that is the fact that when they say that we care about your kids, they care about the check that puts them in a good position in order for them to feed your family. With that understood, for those kids who are going to go play college sports, you need to understand very quickly, and very quickly I say this, is the fact that college sports at a Division I level is not fun. It's a business. It can be fun if you know how to handle business. I'm going to say this one more time. College sports at Division I level cannot be fun if you do not realize that it is a business. If you don't know how to treat yourself as a business, it's very impossible for you to go about having fun at a collegiate level. Here's why. Because if you get put in a situation where these people who recruited you came into your house and told you that you were going to be a star athlete, you're going to start right away. You're going to know the playbook. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that you get on the ice rink, basketball court, or football, whatever it may be. Okay, they told you these things to get you in the building, because at the end of the day that you put a check that's able to feed their families. So with respect to that, you are not in a friendship, you're in a partnership, and you got to respect the partnership for what it is. You have to do your job in every which way possible in order for them to eat and also for yourself to eat. Because me as a man, I know if I have a child, right? If I have a child, I will do everything I possibly can in my power to make sure that my child eats. With respect to the coaches now understand that I have to rely on these athletes in order for my family to eat. So as a player, you have to understand that if you do not do your job, there's no way your coach can play you or put you in, because if you do not do what you're supposed to do, you are taking food out of their family's mouths. They get fired because you didn't do your job. It becomes fun when you realize that, okay, like I have to do my job to this specific task, and this is how it has to be done. I found my regimen. Okay, let's get it. It's time to work. And then you can have fun with it because you know how to go about it. You know your system. You know how to go about it. Now, granted, I do not want you guys to think that college sports is all a negative thing. It's been a blessing. I've had great opportunity. I've traveled a lot of different places, like Chucky had said before. But not only that, you also have to understand the business of the game. And with that said, because we have opportunity to go to another level, there's a major business to the game. So you have to be prepared within yourself, understanding your mental. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I created my mental group. And the reason why I call it my mental group is because they also saved me as much as I like to think that I saved them. And by doing so, we brought together a collective of student athletes who deal with negative things such as mental health issues, things that may be happening at home, but bring them together through community. The reason being is because we understand that these coaches are not focused on people who are injured. And let's be realistic here. If you're injured, you're not a commodity. And that's just me being honest with you. If you're injured, you're taking time and you're taking food out of somebody else's plate. And if you're doing that, you're wasting time. So with that said, we wanted to be the group of people that were able to be there for these people because they didn't have the opportunity to speak up on how they felt. They're constantly told that they're not needed, that they need to get out the way or go handle what you're supposed to do. We can't use you right now. And because we can't use you, you're not paid attention to. Your studies are your studies, and you're expected just to go forward. Now, for example, and I do not mean to scare anybody. Again, I apologize if I do, but this is just me being honest with you guys. So take somebody who has been put in a position that some of you guys have been, and I've heard it just through this conversation, that some of you have been playing for 18 years of your life, right? 18, so forth and so on, for however many years in your life. And then you get put in a position where it's unfortunate. It can maybe, I pray that doesn't happen to you, but maybe you get injured or something like that. And something that you've been good at for so long, you're now having to be put in a position where you have to figure yourself out. And if you don't have a mentor, if you don't have somebody to have your back, it becomes very difficult. And that's why we became the collective that we became, because we wanted to fight against these certain types of racism and thought processes. And what I mean by that is the fact that, like, when there's people that are injured, and this is my personal experience, when I was injured, Mike told me, he said, you have no value to me because you're hurt. It was just that simple. You have zero value to me. So in my head, immediately I became offended because you came in my house and you told my mother you would take care of me. And not only did you tell my mother that you would take care of me, you told me that you would take care of me mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so far, you've only tried to take care of me physically. So in my perspective, I wanted to be that thing that allows people to speak out and to feel comfortable speaking out. And how do you go about that when you have so many people telling you that you're wrong for speaking out? So behind that, and to combat that, do not be afraid to speak about how you feel. In certain situations, yes, you get very terrified of speaking out on how you feel because your job is at risk. There's money at risk. There's time at risk. And if you're looking at Colin Kaepernick, he's not able to feed his family because of the situation that he put himself in. Although it becomes very messed up because fast forward 3 to 4 years later, what he has sat and took a knee for was now becoming the popular thing to do. You had people going everywhere on social media, taking pictures saying, I'll promote the Black Lives Matter movement. But the real question is the fact that, do you raise your fist sometimes or do you raise your fist all the time? And we don't want to put people in a situation where it's only a sometimes thing. Don't be my ally for a couple of days if you can't be my ally every day. So with that said, you can't diminish on who you truly are simply just because of what somebody else thinks of you. That's unfair to you. So if you feel it's most comfortable in your right being, and this is even saying to Chucky, because I really appreciate everything that you've been doing. I've been paying attention to you as well, brother. Feel okay speaking up on how you feel, because at the end of the day, people are going to judge you anyway within the 30 seconds that they meet you. So if you are true to who you are and the being exactly on who you are, speaking out is not going to do anything but make you understand on who your best enemies are and who your best friends are. So if I know who my enemies are and I know who my friends are, then I think I'm in a good place. But that's pretty much what I have for you. I don't want to bear on you guys too much, but I appreciate you guys' time.
Ooh, ooh, wow. Applause to that. Snaps to that.
Preach,
that was incredible. And I just want to say, Trey, thank you so much for bringing the aspect of mental health to the table. That is not something at all that I considered about student athletes until, I heard you talk to Lily and another team member, Brooke, about this. And I would just love for you to just give a little bit more insight into this world, because I did not realize the amount of pressure that you have being in front of a whole stadium of people, not being paid for that, knowing that, you may or may not have people on your side. You can't get injured. I mean, that was something about sports that I did not realize until you brought attention to it, that there is a whole mental health aspect to it that I feel like we have just started talking about as a society, but not even nearly enough to scratch into the world of sports. And so I just love for you to touch on that just briefly, maybe for the next couple of minutes or so, just until we move to group questions. And once again, folks, make sure you're writing it down. Yeah.
Essentially, just as I had said before to some of your colleagues, man, every time we step out on that field, we know that we are somebody's role model. And what you want to show to the person that you're being the role model for is solely up to you, and it becomes very difficult, because I had a booster come up to me and talk to me, and we had consistent conversations, and it was a good time. I was thinking okay, this person could be my mentor. Everything's falling in line, everything I wanted to be, until we sat down and had this one conversation that made me very uncomfortable. So I had sat down, told him all my aspirations, all my goals in life. And one of the things that threw me off that he had said to me was, Trey, you're one of the good ones. And not only are you one of the good ones, how come you're so smart and the other ones can't be? And I just sat back and I just looked at him. I said, excuse me? And he said, why are you so smart, but the other ones can't be? I said, So I'm gonna act like you didn't say that, and I'm just gonna take this time just to leave. Because like that, in those specific moments, this is what is expected out of Black athletes every single time that we step on the field. Every time we're in an interview, every time we're in social media, what you say is always criticized. Every little thing that you say is very critical, because they're waiting to show that you are the person that they think that you are. And when you show them that you're not, it throws them completely off. For example, anytime that you see Cam Newton doing anything that any other white quarterback would do, he's firstly always the one that's scrutinized for what is going on. So when they get put into these uncomfortable situations, it's like when I come back and combat and ask you the same question, like, okay, why are you one of the good ones? It doesn't even sound like it makes sense. So why would it not make sense to you? Why would you think it would make sense to me? It doesn't. So as Black athletes, we're constantly put on this pedestal where you have to either you have to be hood enough to play, and be very wary of what I'm saying. You either have to be hood enough to play, or you have to be correct enough to play. And now what do I mean? Because this is not just one spectrum. A lot of people get that confused where it's white versus Black. It's not always that way. Because even in the locker room, if you haven't come from a upbringing that is not a great upbringing enough, then you're not hood enough. And then within the white eye, if you don't speak with a direct dialect, then you're not good enough for us either. The real question is, like, what role model do you truthfully want to be? And if you give your all into being that role model every single time you step on that court, the ice rink, and the field, or whatever it may be, then that's the person that little kid is looking up to. Because we play in front of millions of people, and that's including TV and stands. So you have to just understand on who you are and prepare for the worst, but also be hopes of the best.
Thank you. And we're going to open it up to Q&A really quickly. Chucky, I see your hand up. And so I'd love for you to just start sharing about, also what you want to add to that. Thank you, Trey. That was amazing.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Trey a question. I know what my schedule was, and I know you talked about how student athlete, full scholarship, people say, oh, you're on full ride. You should be thankful. You should be grateful. And, I just want you to put in perspective to people who might not understand how this full ride works and stuff. Again, real quick, just to explain like what your whole day basically goes, like your day, your whole process, the outline of your whole day. Because people say like, oh, you're on full ride, you got a full scholarship, but they don't understand. We don't get to take advantage of that full scholarship. We don't get to, have study groups or like get to like really work on our classes and stuff. I know you mentioned a little bit more, but I just wanted you to really talk about how your day, how your whole day goes, basically, like starting from when you wake up to when you go to bed.
Oh man. Okay. So I wake up at 5 a.m. That's just the start of the day. Wake up at 5 a.m. Started, get ready, everything prepared. I let my dog out. She's a beautiful dog. She's incredible. I have roommates who also help me with my dog as well. But wake up at 5 a.m, get dressed, brush my teeth, head out, get to the facility by 6. By 6, we're getting prepared. You might eat breakfast, but then you go to film just to hear how much you either suck or how good you really did. And then after film, we talk, we go to team meeting, we go to special teams meeting. So that's that's probably from like 8 to 9. So then from 9 to about 12, we practice, right? So this is a full-blown practice, getting beat up by other grown men. So whatever workout that you guys have ever done, think about waking up and then you're going to combat for the next 3 hours. After combat, you now have to go to rehab. I go to rehab from 12 to 2. Mind you, I woke up at 5 o'clock and I got the facility at 6. I'm not leaving there until 2 o'clock like I was today. Sorry, again, I apologize again for being late, but I was at rehab because of my certain injuries that I have had in the past. From there, I then have class because I'm a grad student from 2 to 9. On top of that, from going from school, classes from 2 to 9, again, I say it's from 2 to 9 p.m. I still am expected to be a regular college student and study. So I'll study from probably 9 to 11. And then from there, what other time do I have? Like, there's really not other time that I have. And then the days that I do have time, I work because like you, Chucky, I also do have family and people that I have to take care of. And so I do that. I do take that time to go take care of my family. But again, as a college student, like you said before, the full ride is not as simple and sweet as most people would like it to think. You know what I mean? My time is limited. I don't get to wake up at 10. I don't get to stay up till 10. You know what I'm saying? I don't get to, there's times where I stay up until 12 because I've been studying the whole time. Then I got to wake up again at 5 and still expected to perform. But I hope that kind of gives you guys a perspective on what it is.
I don't even know. Someone else go.
I pretty much answered my question. I just wanted to hear his aspect of it because I already know like how, the timing is crazy. It's being a student athlete and, trying to manage with those things.
Trey, how do you know Chucky?
Honestly, I know Chuck through mutual friends. I call him my brother DeAndre. He knows Chuck. Him and Chuck are really close friends. But I've also seen Chuck in passing 100 times because we're in the same division for football and basketball. And so we'd hear each other in passing. I'd always wanted to play against Quick, but we ain't make it that far. We ain't gonna talk about that. But
okay. Yeah, take yourselves off mute, folks, and just kind of ask your questions. Yeah.
I had a question for Trey. I was just wondering, so you just laid out your entire day and you had talked a little bit previously about your mental health support group and how important that is to you. So I guess I was just wondering, with such like a packed schedule, how do you personally, maybe outside of group, find time, and what ways do you support your own mental health? Because I thought that was important.
I love your question, by the way. That's a great question. For my own mental health, I take the weekends and specifically one day right now because we're in spring ball. Right now we're in 6 days a week. We're with the football team. So the only day I get off is Sunday right now. But Sundays is for my meditation. I'm one big dude on meditation, and not only meditation and yoga. I'm very spiritual. I pray every night, but not only that, I spend a lot of time writing a lot of stuff down because again, I'm human, bro. I'm not perfect by any means or by any stretch. So meditation, poetry, stretching a lot with yoga, of course. And the one thing I really found that I really liked and I didn't know I liked was painting. Like I got invested into painting, but it just gives you time to express whatever you're feeling, whether I be upset with a coach or whatever it may be. But Sundays are my me days.
I love that. Thank you. That's just wonderful. I'm so glad that you're so diverse in your interests.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I just want to say, Chucky and Trey, it's not often that my boys will tell you I have a lot to say all the time, but really just taken back by both of your stories. And really, this was insightful. And Trey, I mean, your mental health, I mean, what you just said a second ago resonates with me heavily. I'm a hockey player with 9 concussions. We've told the story last week when we did our prelim call on this, but 9 concussions, 5 lost teeth. I was a fighter. And I deal with a lot of mental health issues from that, being an athlete. I actually couldn't really continue in the sport the way I wanted to. By the age of 18, I was already on concussion number 7. So, meditation and yoga, and really, you said painting. I love to draw. I used to do a lot of graffiti in Philly when I was a kid, and I was a big graffiti guy. Just anything that really takes you out of yourself, right? Like sounds crazy, I love to just sit down and organize stuff. I don't know, just like I see your shoes behind you, you probably got your shoes all organized. I do that. Like it's the kind of stuff every day, like last night I was up till 1 a.m, like organizing files in my office that didn't need to be organized. But for me, it clears my head and it makes me feel good. But really, I think for anybody dealing with mental health issues, finding that time is really important, because sweeping under the rug is not going to, in the long run, it's not going to do you any favors. And if you have anybody close enough in your life to talk to, also, I think talking about it is very important. Trey, another thing you said that really stuck out to me, you talked about the potential mentor that you had that made that comment. That's really tough to hear. I've been working with my boys for 7 years. I could never dream of saying anything like that or even thinking anything like that. But I do know that people think that way, unfortunately. And I'm sorry that you went through that. I strive every day to make sure my boys don't go through that. When you talked about shut up and play, even myself, when I coached in New York City for years, I stood up to what's known as USA Hockey. It's the collective organization that is bound by all players that play hockey before the age of 18. Any youth hockey player has to play under the USA Hockey banner. I stood up to USA Hockey because one of my players, actually Lance's older brother, was called the N-word on the ice, and they were going to give the kid a game suspension. I think they made him write some bogus letter. I'm a fighter. I told you that. That wasn't good enough for me, so I was going to fight to the end on that one. I ended up making calls all the way to the top level at USA Hockey, only to get a phone call from the organization that I coached at the time, will go unnamed, but they called me and they told me pretty much to shut up because if I didn't, the USA Hockey would penalize the Long Island Hockey League, and then the Long Island Hockey League would ultimately penalize our organization as a whole in every game moving forward to teach us a lesson. And it was at that time that I told them I resign as a coach from this program and I'm going to start the 43 Oak Foundation. Well, at the time it was another foundation that I co-founded, but here we are 7 years down the line with the 43 Oak Foundation. So the whole silencing thing, that doesn't work for me. It never will. And I will never be quiet. And I appreciate your sentiments, both Chucky and Trey. And I think it's important for my boys, Lance and Romeo, and all my players, really, to hear your inspirational speeches about your journey and where you're at, because you both articulate your stories so well. And again, I know I did just say a lot, but I am floored by both of your talks today. So I really appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And if you guys have any words of advice for my boys, I mean, I know they're listening intently right now for sure.
My biggest advice for your boys would be, bro, just don't quit. I mean, you guys are going to face adversity every single day of your lives because you're Black athletes. That's just the reality behind it. You know what I mean? But with that said, that shouldn't be something that you're scared of. And you guys already have a multitude of racial slurs and racial differences. People are just upset because you know what you're doing, man. You love the game, you play the game. The game is the ultimate mission. At the end of the day, they're just another obstacle that you were born to get over anyway. You know what I'm saying? So just stay locked in and stay in tune to yourself. That's the only advice I could possibly give you. And if y'all need anything, y'all got my social media information and everything. Just hit me up.
Yeah, the same thing this way. Any advice y'all want, you know, I'm there for it. I love talking to younger kids and trying to help them through their situation. That's pretty much like when I was a kid, that's who I always wanted, somebody that was active and able to talk and like show me the guideline, like take me under their wing. You know, whatever y'all are facing, like I like to throw a little bit of God into it. And, you know, through the COVID year, I was able to grow with my faith in the Lord. And I just understood that, you know, when things come, when controversy comes or anything challenging comes, I had to understand that God cares about your character more than what's convenient for you. So you might be going through an inconvenient situation, but all in all, it's just a test to your character, and it's just going to be character building for you. So, you know, once you're able to understand that, all right, you know, this is going to just build this is all this is doing is just building my character. I'm going to get through it, and it's going to make me a better person at the end. You know, that's the only way to look at those things. And, you know, like, I forget which one, someone mentioned it about not being a victim, though. You know, that all wraps up into that. You know, you just rise above being just the victim and just letting it be that. You rise above those things and just becoming a better version of yourself at the end of the day.
It's just incredible to hear the exchange of like advice and guidance and mentorship already. Like I'm trying not to like get teary-eyed, but I'm like getting teary-eyed because it's so incredible to have a space to all come together. And I do just want to shout out, I actually had a question. Well, I thought people would have a question. We've been talking about Lance and Romeo and how they're exceptional athletes. We don't know how young they are and how good they actually are. So Sean and Lance and Romeo, I just want to give you guys the floor to sort of talk about, I mean, you guys already have hectic schedules as it is. Hearing this, like your thoughts, your impressions, and also just like letting people know truly how kind of good you are, not to build your ego or anything, but brag to us because you guys are pretty incredible. And then we can move into whiteboard and stuff. But I just want to give you guys the floor.
Ro, you want to start it off?
Oh, I was gonna say you can start it off, or you can even tell them about it.
If you want me to start it off for you, I'll start you both off. I'll be your hype man. I got no problem doing that. I'll start with Romeo because he's the older of the two. Romeo Torain, king of the hip check. If you want to see some entertaining videos, go to his Instagram. The hip check, if you don't know what it is, it's exactly what it sounds like. You take a guy by the hip as he's coming down the ice, and you take him, you catch him with your hip, and you take him straight to the glass and then to the ground. Now, again, this is a part of the sport, so please don't take the violence in a bad way, but this is we don't look at it as violence in the sport of hockey. It's just a way of life. It's what we do. It's a game of respect. We have, I said before, I'll say it again, 95% of the stuff that goes on the ice that's violent is out of respect. And at the end of the game, we're friends with these guys that it happens with. So, Romeo is one heck of a hockey player. When he came to my skate 7 years ago, I was so excited that Romeo Torain wanted to bless us with his presence at the ice because I knew a lot of my boys had already looked up to him. He had already built up such a name for himself. He was playing AAA hockey by the age of, 12 years old, I think, Romeo. His father, Bobby Hockey, was on it and making sure that he was, playing for the Jersey Avalanche, which is a big name team. To this day, Romeo, like he said, the last 2 years he's played junior A hockey in Walpole, Massachusetts. What an accomplishment. And when you want to talk about an athlete who has just pushed through everything, Romeo's your guy. He has just always found a way to get to the rink. He has dedicated himself. Trey, you talk about, your schedule as a D1 athlete. What's crazy to me is these two young men are already doing that, and they're not even. Lance is 16, and he's got a very similar schedule. So that's my background on Ro, and obviously he committed NCAA this year, which is a big deal for any athlete, but especially for someone coming from his background, is a huge deal in the world of ice hockey.
And Romeo, how old are you?
I'm 20. I'm gonna be 21 in about a week and a half, but I'm 20 right now.
Right. Crazy.
Yeah. And then we have Mr. Lance Spencer. His older brother, L.J. Spencer, was the one who kickstarted this whole thing off for me years and years ago. I told L.J. that I wanted to start a program for minorities and underprivileged youth in New York City to play hockey. He said, "Coach, say less. I got you the players." The next day, he showed up to Chelsea Piers with 8 minority hockey players, and they were buzzing around the ice. I had no idea where these kids came from, but wow, were they impressive. And so the story begins. And then Lance at the time was just a young guy. I think he was only 10 years old, but very impressionable, would come to all of our practices and games and watch. And now it's his turn. Now he's leading the way. He's showing all the younger guys in our program the way to do it. And Lance right now is playing 16U AAA hockey for the New Jersey Titans, which is a big, big program in New Jersey. This past year with COVID, I just explained where our program's at and why it's so important. Lance's entire team at the Jersey Hitmen last year at AAA, they cut the entire team. Now, the difference between Lance and everybody else on the team is that Marcy, who is the greatest hockey mom in the world, and Tanya, Romeo's mom as well. But Marcy is, wow. I mean, when you talk about a dedicated hockey mom, but the truth of the matter is she just didn't have the connections in hockey. All the other players, they already knew where they were going. They knew the next AAA team that they were going to go to. Lance didn't. And up until, I think, September, Lance didn't have a AAA team to play for. So we got on the phone. Lance told me that about the Hitmen situation. I immediately called 5 different teams. And this is where we're a resource for our players. I got him a bunch of tryouts. He went to the Titans. The coach called me in the middle of the skate, goes, "Hey, just so you know, I just gave your kid a jersey. He's on the team. He's an unbelievable hockey player. Can't wait to have him be a part of the club." So Lance did that. I didn't do that. Lance did that. Lance showed up. Lance put the work in. Lance shows up to the hockey rink just like Romeo, literally 7 days a week. And, you know, I'm just so excited for their hockey futures. I know I just talked a lot again. Sorry, guys, but I am your hype man. So if you have anything else to say about yourselves, feel free to. There he is, Ro.
And I just want to, piggyback on Sean, and also with what Trey said earlier about, working and doing all that stuff, fitting it into a tight schedule. And my first year of junior hockey was probably the roughest one compared to this past season as my second. The first one, being new and familiar, like not familiar to the area and playing on a new team. Also, with helping in tuition and paying for my to play, I had to get a job as well. So I was working on the sideline as playing hockey, and not only working one job, but 2 jobs. So I played hockey. I was up at, 7:30 in the morning. I practiced from 8:30. Didn't get out to around maybe 1, 2 the latest. Being on the ice for an hour for practice, then having a workout or yoga. Like Trey said, yoga does help a lot when it comes to playing physical sports and clearing your mind. Also doing film and special teams units as well. And then actually having to go home and only get a little bit of time to myself to relax. I'd probably take like a 30-minute power nap, and then I was off to work. And I just worked a basic job. I was working at Dunkin' Donuts, just trying to, help myself and provide, because not only, where I was living, I lived in this thing where you call billet houses. Billets are like families that take you in, and you live there. You pay a monthly bill to live there. So, that's $400 being paid to go and live in a house where you get unlimited resources and everything. But then also having to pay for my groceries and stuff and pay for equipment and stuff. I had to work 2 jobs. So I had to work at Dunkin' Donuts. I would work from, 4 to 10 and close out at night, then go home to go to sleep and restart the whole thing over again for the, the whole week basically. And there were days where I would, my boss would be like, "Can you come in?" And I'm like, "I can't, I'm swamped. I got a game, or I have a practice, I have this or that." And then also working at the ice rink as well, helping little kids learn how to play hockey, doing the score clock for the games, the youth games on weekends. So it was a handful my first year compared to this past year, not doing anything, but just playing hockey. But the first year was probably one of the hardest for me to, also do that and be on my own for the first time, away from my parents for 7 months and only getting to come home for a week and a half twice out of the whole season. And that's for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Compared to this year was a little different. I only got to come home once. I came home for Christmas. I didn't get to come home for Thanksgiving because of, COVID, and the schedules were all backed up. So we had a game on Thanksgiving Day. So I didn't even get to celebrate with my family. They had to watch me on TV, and then I had to celebrate with my teammates and have dinner with them instead of my own family. So it was like I was the key piece that was missing to everyone on Thanksgiving this past year.
Also, if you want to see, I don't know if everybody can see on the screen here, but this is Romeo throwing the hip check.
I was me at 13.
That's him in the white, putting that guy over the bench. Say it one more time.
Funny thing about that, the kid in that video was a year younger than me, and we ended up becoming teammates 3 years later down the road. And we will always talk about the moment. And he was like, "Yeah," he was like, "I know." He was like, "I just did not know where I was." I was like, "I didn't even know where you went." And now I still talk to him to this day, but he's doing pretty good, and he's had a successful journey down from hockey as well. He's playing in his sophomore season at Boston University. Also an NHL draft picked a third round, 93rd pick. So pretty grateful to play on the same team as him, and also get to talk about that moment.
That's hockey for you.
Thank you all so much. We're going to move into the whiteboard, which is a collective opportunity for us to share quotes, learnings, pieces of inspiration, anything that we've learned, we're going to share together on this whiteboard. And I'm also going to use this chance to to just talk a little bit about next steps of the meetup. We are going to go into our breakout rooms after our whiteboard, and I'm posting the instructions for the whiteboard actually in the chat right now, because up to 10 people can annotate at the same time. So this is a collective community opportunity. Everybody can draw or write or add their own learnings or inspirations to this whiteboard. And then we take a picture of it so that we can remember it and we can use it later to make sure that we keep the conversation going and we keep the learning going. And we're going to send out resources afterwards so that we can make sure we're staying up to date. And we can also talk about what our pledge and commitment is in terms of representation, allyship, and continuing to create more space for access in the sports. So I want to hear from you, even if you don't know, if you want to say it out loud, if you want to write it down yourself or write it in the chat, like, what did you learn? What was your favorite part about what you've heard here today? And what do you want to write down for us to remember? Yes, I'm a product of systemic racism. I'm statistically not supposed to be in the position I'm in. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't be a victim. We are not just our sport. Oh, I see people drawing. I see people trying out to draw. Yeah, it takes a minute to kind of figure out exactly what to do. When you go to the view options, you can go, it says like fit to window, and then there's annotate. And when you click annotate, then you can write things down.
And just also feel free to shout it out, and we'll try to keep up and write it so we can all see.
Trey, could you say what you said again about, I think it was like you're either good enough or you got to be good enough or hood enough? What was that exact saying? Could somebody write that down?
You got to be hood enough for the Black people and you got to be good enough for the white people.
Yeah, there was also something else that was said about not being Black enough, like not being Black enough, which is something that I feel like I hear a lot, specifically when it comes to people that are biracial or that are mixed with Black, and that they're talking about being accepted by the Black community, or and also being able to having other privileges or passing with something else possibly. And so like not being Black enough. So it's interesting to hear that in a different context.
I bounced around my first 2 years of college. I was at a junior college, so that was like a stepping stone before you go to a university. And for me is like a lot of people, I don't really open up about like who I actually am or where I come from, because like I'm in the midst of, figuring myself out and stuff. And, as you get to these schools, and you get to these new teams, your teammates are trying to figure you out. They're trying to, like Trey said, the first 30 seconds, they're trying to get their first judgment on you. And, for me, like, I keep my social media clean. I don't post nothing crazy or whatever. For me, like a couple of teammates I had when they first see me, and I've had a coach who I've never even got to put this into a perspective until a coach mentioned this. Now, he wasn't saying it in a racist, not a racist way because he was black himself, but I had a coach who actually put this in perspective one day when after practice, we got in the huddle. A lot of people, when they meet me and stuff, they would not know that I came from like, the hood, from things like that. I worked on building my character up, as I was going through these situations and getting to college. So I'm not like, I'm not saying that like, I'm better than my hood or anything like that. It's just the fact that like I'm learning how to operate accordingly into where I'm at and where I'm supposed to be at. And I remember, we brought it in after one practice. Basically, like when I get to like when I got to a new team, it was kind of hard fitting in at first because, some of the other athletes that were black, they start off, they call me a light skin, and, they think I'm a pretty boy and stuff. And, it's funny. I laugh at those things, but they kind of, some of them would kind of take that serious and they think I might be like soft or sweet or something like that. And I don't really necessarily have to prove myself or anything like that. I just let it show for on the court or who I really am and stuff, as long as it doesn't get into anything serious. But, that was one thing I had to realize too, because when I play basketball, like I play hard, I play tough, I really play like, old school. I'm like, they could like I like to rebound. I just play hard all the time. So some people might think like it's a front or something or whatever. And I'm not out there trying to be a tough guy or nothing. I just play hard-nosed basketball though. That's how we played in L.O.V.E. That's how, I'm playing like where I came from. That's all I knew growing up. But that kind of shedded some light. And after one of our practices, coach was just talking about respecting your teammates and stuff. And then he said, Chuck, for example, I'm pretty sure when y'all seen him, y'all thought, it was a light-skinned, pretty Ricky or something. And, we laughed about it and stuff. But, that was something that been lingering in my mind over the years about how people see you and stuff whenever Trey said you either hood enough or whatever. Because, for me, I'm not, when I go to a new team or something, I don't have to prove that I'm hood enough. I know that I came from there. I'm not, I glorify it in the right way. I'm not about to glorify like all the bad things and stuff, because for the most part, there are athletes that do come for the hood, but the ones that make it to school and try to claim that they're from the hood, they're the ones that's not even really from there, because if they are, they would know that they're trying to rise above that and be better than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I think that kind of leads a little bit into something else that I forgot to mention earlier. And I think it comes down to something that I know for me, that a lot of the coaches are not able to relate to my players on a level of insecurity. I think insecurity is a big thing with mental health and just in general that doesn't really get talked about in sports, but we all feel insecure. And I think that word is such a scary word. I know for me, I would hate it when my father would say the word insecure to me, because I would take it as like a shot at at who I was or whatever. And I went through that whole, like, am I supposed to be hood or am I supposed to be this ice hockey? Like, who the hell am I? And I think, from my kids, like I remember the first time I ever went to a team party, we got invited and we took us an hour to get to this kid's house. And my father pulled over a block away from the house. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, I just want to tell you real quick, that we're about to go to somebody's house you've never seen a house like this. I mean, these homes are massive. And I just need you to know that when you go there, you shouldn't feel any less than anybody else at this house. Like, just because you come from a row home in Philly, that doesn't mean just because this kid lives in a big house, that makes him better than you. Just know that when you're in there. And thank God that I had that mentorship. Not everybody's lucky enough to have that mentorship, but like, I think it's important to talk about these things, because if nobody talks about it with us or with the players, you can just lead yourself in the directions that you have to figure that out. About that, you were talking, Chucky, just about having to be, talking about, proving how hood you are and stuff like that. When I was a kid, I felt like I constantly had to prove how hood I was. And it was such a weird thing. And I guess that's the beautiful thing about time, is when you get older and more mature, you realize that none of that matters. And, when you come from something, it is what it is, whether people feel that or they don't. It's usually the loudest guys in the room that aren't doing anything or aren't from where they say they're from. So I just think like having that mentorship and having people to talk to and help you understand these things as a young athlete is super important, because if you don't have it, it can become a very lost world. And you can definitely get caught up in a lot of that. And I think that's where mistakes get made sometimes.
I'll go on to add on to that just in terms of mental health. I feel like with athletes, especially athletes, they lose sense of identity. You know what I mean? Who I am without my sport. And even certain people in terms of job, like they lose sense of like, who am I without my occupation? I highly suggest anybody who struggles with that and the fear of losing whatever it may be in terms of the sport or occupation, man, is do not lose a sense of identity to yourself. Like, whoever you are, whatever you want to be that. You know what I mean? Figure out who you are. What do you like? Do you like to draw? Do you like to paint? Like you said before, Sean, you used to draw. Ask yourself, why did I stop drawing? You know what I'm saying? Like it's small, simple stuff like that. You can't lose identity on who you are truthfully within yourself, because who you have to portray is who you portray. That's up to you. That's how you do things. But who you are genuinely, you got to figure that out. That's the identity thing. And for myself, I found out that I love helping people. That's why I'm here now. Like I genuinely enjoy being in the presence of other people. And with that said, I also know I have high anxiety. I have game anxiety. I have a lot of different types of things, but I learned that over time, because I wanted to ask myself these questions, like, who am I? Like, you're not supposed to be perfect as an athlete, but our system allows us to think that you're supposed to be perfect as an athlete. That's not true at all. And if people believe that's true, that sucks, because at the end of the day, you're just human. I'm just good at something. That, like, we're being honest. I'm the same exact person that you are. I'm just really good at doing something a little bit different than what you're good at. You might be really good at writing things. You might be really good at grammar. I suck at English. I'm not great with English. You know what I mean? So with that said, like, respect the fact that as an athlete, you're still a human. You still deserve to be loved. Like, you still deserve these certain things, man. And you got to give respect to yourself, but not only to yourself, to the people around you, to let them know who you truly are. So Chucky, I do commend you, because I know you know Kazon and I know Kazon, and that's another different story. But like, there's people and players that like finding themselves like, I got to prove myself to these people. I got to prove myself. I got to prove to myself. Bro, you don't got to prove nothing to nobody but yourself.
That's right. And
at the end, like, if you can't control what you truly care about, or if you don't work for what you care about, then what are you doing? I told my mom this the other day, and I'll end it with this for myself anyways. I said, Mom, I couldn't see myself working so hard to make somebody else money. Like, if I'm working hard in any field that I'm doing, I'm working because I have a family that I personally want to feed. I have things that I personally want to do. Even when it comes to football, I understand that we have a business partnership. And with that partnership, I have a goal that I must meet. You know what I'm saying? So with that, that's for my personal goal. That has nothing to do with the fact that you're my coach. I respect that you're my coach. But at the same time, I have things that I have aspirations that I also want to do. I also want to see. You know what I mean? So for you young players, I know you're about to turn 21 out there, Roro. So I'm going to be watching your stuff and whatnot. Then after that, we'll talk about future things. But with that said, happy birthday coming up here soon, because I might not see you. So happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I have one more thing to say, if I could, before we get off it. So,
oh, yeah. Actually, just before you do that, I love this energy. And so I want to keep talking. And I feel like kind of that's the vibe of the room. So we're just going to keep talking. So, Romeo, feel free to share your bit. Then we've been seeing in the chat, Lily's been posting all of our social media handles for everyone here. Feel free to drop your socials, especially the athletes, so you guys can stay in touch, so we can follow you and follow your journeys. We're going to do a group photo, and then we're just going to keep talking, and we'll just like open it up. And I'd love to hear from the people who've stayed with us for this long. We have a cute little intimate group, and this is incredible. So Romeo, take it away, and then we'll
I just want to say this really, and it kind of opened up my eyes a little bit. Like I started to realize it. But Trey said something about like when you sign something, or you're not doing it for you're basically like signing like a business or something. It was something that had to deal with like you're basically like feeding the coach, or you the coach is kind of you're giving him money to feed his family. So I just made me think of something, because it's kind of a common thing that's happened. Probably you could say with my recent team, with my coach. Now, when I think about it, my coach for the past 2 years, our team or organization has probably led the lead in the most commitments. Like we've committed and advanced guys. Like after my first year playing on the team, we had about 16 guys commit to Division III schools or Division II as well. And then we had one guy advance into a higher junior level. And I realized, because I've been hearing this stuff from time to time, when coaches commit guys from the organization in junior hockey, that's like a bonus added to their check. Like they get an extra couple $1,000s off of that. So now when I heard that, when he said that, I'm thinking it's not like, yeah, it's kind of benefiting us, but they're kind of benefiting the most out of it. Like the coach, like they'll do this, they'll help you with all this. But then after a while, they'll say all these things like, oh, they'll do this, and they'll take care of you and everything and make sure you're all right. But when you think about it, like they really won't, because if they're taking care of you, that means they have to do the same thing for the rest of the team. And we don't know how many guys can be on a roster. Like for my team, there were 30 guys. You can't take care of 30 guys all by yourself as one coach. So when I heard that, I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of felt that vibe from that message, because I can relate to it. Because think about it, my coach, before this past season, before it started, I was, talking with my coach, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to come back. Like I might want to go somewhere else just to be closer to home and, save time and everything for my parents, because, they can't really do much. And I didn't have my license at the time. I still don't. But anyways, and he was like, I'd do anything. I'd kill for you to have you on this team to stay. Like if I have to come and pick you up and bring you out to Massachusetts, if I have to do anything to, keep you on this team, I will. And he, he did that. He came and picked me up. He brought me up to Massachusetts, and he did everything in the beginning. But then as time progressed over through the season, there's more time that was, being, what he said, and putting time towards, maybe even helping me or anything, to be put towards other guys, because, you can't always just focus on one player. So I started to realize that, and, he said you would do this and that, but majority of that stuff didn't happen. Like, I was one of the lone returning players at the beginning of the season. Like I was the only kid from the previous team that came back. Like the only player that like played every single game the year before, done everything, been there from the very start to start the whole thing over again. I was introduced to a whole new team this year. And I just have to say, like, as a lone returner and, being promised a lot of things, and not many of those things happen, especially in the hockey community, because coaches will make promises but will not keep that promise. And I've learned that on multiple teams, not even that team. I've had that on my team that I played out in Brooklyn with. I had that with my team in New Jersey. I was expected to play on a higher level 16U team than the lower team. And then I came to the tryout. I came the second day. Coach was like, why are you here? I was like, I'm here to try out. He told me that, he promised me all these things. And then he said, oh, I already had, we already finished the roster and everything. And I didn't get any notice or anything. They told me I was going to be on the team. Didn't make the team. So I ended up getting sent down to play on the lower team. And the kid that took my spot, which I'm kind of grateful that I didn't get that spot, because if I did, I wouldn't have played that much. Like the kid told me, he was like, it was not like, it wasn't fun at all. Like it was fun being one of the top teams in the country and winning games and being on a really good team that was winning a lot of tournaments. But he said, but I'm not really taking part of it. Like my ice time or the amount of shifts that I get per game is not really helping me. I'm not getting any exposure. I looked at his stats. His stats were, he didn't even get to the double digits at the end of the year. He did not get to the double digits. I heard a story about him and the team they played, like the number one team in the country at a showcase. They went to a shootout and won. They beat the number one team in the country. And being as a top 10 team, beating a higher seed, the number one team in a whole country, you think you have some, you have some credit, or, you put some effort in it. But hearing the story and him saying that I only played one shift out of that whole 60-minute game plus extra time kind of breaks my heart, because it kind of gives me a chance to step back and look at it and say, wow, like if that was me, I wouldn't be happy with that. And that's when it was my last year in New Jersey playing for the team, where on the lower team, even as a fifth-year player returning and having new kids come in and take the spot, or take the spots that I was, that I worked hard to earn, and get that taken away, and seeing my parents upset and my mom crying every weekend and asking, why is he on the last line of defense? Or why are we driving out and he's not even playing that much? He's only guaranteed 5 shifts a game. It was just like, I guess it's time to move on from some teams and go start somewhere new. So that's when I took my leave and I left out of New Jersey and went to Long Island. And that's where I was, granted more ice time. I got more power play time, more penalty kill time, and more points started progressing throughout my years of playing on the team. So, but yeah, with Trey saying, signing things, it's always, it's not fun, but it's a business at the same time. I kind of agree with him on that.
Be very wary on what people are saying to you. Like, really listen. I feel like the greatest task in the world is being a great listener. If you're a great listener, you can understand what somebody's telling you. If they're a good person or they're a snake. One thing I've learned is there's a lot of snakes in the grass. Make sure that you're cutting your grass. You know what I'm saying? So the only way that you can do that is by making sure that you are the person that you need to be. Make sure that your morals are straight. Make sure that the person you are is the person that you need to be for yourself. And I'll say this one more time, bro. There's a lot of snakes in your grass. Make sure your grass is cut. You know what I mean? So you have to go to work in literally 20 minutes. I love you guys. I appreciate your time. Chuck, God bless you. I hope you're doing well in Portugal. To the other 2 young gentlemen, Ro, happy birthday again. Everybody on here, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Trey.
Appreciate you too, bro.
I appreciate you, man. Y'all have a good one, man.
You too, Trey.
I want to piggyback a little bit. I like how we're talking about mental health in here. That's something that's been very huge for me in 2020 and, and going on forward. Like Trey said, athletes embed themselves in their sports. And, for me, like I said, I come from, poverty. I've seen a lot of bad things happen. I've seen stuff a kid should not see. I've lived through stuff kids should not live through. I had to make decisions that a kid should not have made, should not be making. And, as you get older, you understand that you want to not live this way in life, but it's kind of hard because you don't have that platform. You've only been seeing life from this way. So you're trying to figure this stuff out. And, when you see all this stuff all the time, you just put a Band-Aid over it, put a patch over it, and you just try to you get basically immune to it. It's like, it's normal. I've seen from, I've always just thought this was normal. For me, basketball was my patch. I'm going to just share a little bit of my testimony like I said, I'm not open about my personal life, but I'm working towards getting open about it just to work on myself, be better, and hopefully inspire other people. So basketball was always my patch. I put everything into basketball. In my hood, everybody know me for waking everybody up at 5, 6 in the morning, dribbling my ball and stuff. My brother and sister can tell you all the time I used to wake because they live by the court. Like I said, I don't come from a regular family either. My dad has my brother and sister. My mom has my other sister, and we don't all live together and stuff. So, we lived in the same area, but we don't all live together. But where I come from, like I said, it's only make or break with sports or not. So I really just put everything into sports and tried to tune out other things and stuff. And that's what got me out of the hood. I won a state championship in high school. I got a full scholarship to go to college and stuff. I just kept telling myself, if I stick with basketball, keep being a basketball player, that's going to keep working out for me. It's going to keep working. And obviously COVID hit in 2020. Now basketball's taken away. When basketball died, a huge part of me died as well. And now I'm hit back with the fact of all right, I got to face these things again. You know, I come from a broken home. I have like personal family issues and stuff that goes on. Like when I got to college, first off, when I was in high school, I bounced around a lot. I didn't stay under the same roof as my mom or dad. Wasn't nothing crazy, just the situations didn't work out. And I bounced around a bit. And, you know, once I got to school, I pretty much always like stayed at school for as long as I could, just because like, you know, I just like being out of that environment. I just always wanted to like, you know, I love my hood, but I want to save my hood one day. And I realized like, if I keep going back home or if I spend a lot of time home, I can easily get trapped right back in there, like how anybody else can. And, you know, so I always try to stay at school as much. Once I got to IUP, they were able to provide for me to stay over the summertime and whenever I wanted to and, you know, work a job and stuff like that. You know, so like, just want to put it in perspective. You know, a lot of people don't understand me or like where I come from, but like when breaks and stuff come or like summer break and everything, like a lot of my teammates, they get to go home. Like they go home to their families. They see mom and dad, you know, they spend time together and stuff like that. You know, I don't really necessarily have that as much. And in 2018, I had lost my grandfather in January. Then I lost my dad a couple of days before Thanksgiving. So like then it was just like my mom, my brother and sister, and then my other sister and my two nieces. So like, it's hard, you know, going back home because like everybody's always working, they're busy. We don't really spend too much family time. We don't really have that anymore. Our family's been broken up because of deaths or any other situations that come up. So like, I just kind of like started to stay comfortable staying out at school. And when COVID hit, now I don't have basketball. You know, that big piece of me died. And I worked so hard on my sport. Like I took a pillow and blanket and I stayed the night in the gym. Like that's how crazy I am about my sport. And we were number one, we were top 3 in the country at the time. Like this is my senior year. You know, we were going to go to the national championship. Like I have no doubt in my mind. We were like 28-2. We won our regional, our conference and everything. Like we were winning. I always, you know, we were winning and we were planning on going to like the NCAA tournament, but COVID hit. Now my teammates, they all go home. They go back to their families and stuff. They're enjoying family time and stuff. You know, for me, that kind of hit me and it made me understand, like, you know, I got to really face this stuff. You know, I go home, I see my mom and stuff, my nieces at times and my brother and sister. But like, I don't just stay home because I just spend a lot of time at home, like either by myself or whatever the case is. So like, I just stayed out of school and I started to realize like, you know, the way I'm living life, I know I'm living good in a basketball term, but what happens when basketball is over? Just like now, like how am I going to start providing for myself or get an apartment for myself or when I start a family and stuff like, you know, or like, you know, getting a girlfriend and stuff and like how I'm supposed to treat her or when I have a child one day, how I'm supposed to raise that child. You know, a lot of them things were like big time questions for me and stuff. And through this process, I'm trying to at least get another job to play overseas. So from March all the way till November, end of November, December-ish, you know, I was left in this big gray area and it was hard. Like there was a lot of days where I just like felt mentally exhausted because I just didn't know what to do with myself. I started to find a way where I was training kids and, you know, I was starting to be around them. That's whenever I started to really find a passion and joy for kids. I always had it, but this was giving me more better one-on-one time with them. And, you know, it kept me around the sport still because I was training kids and stuff. But, you know, thankfully I started to understand, like, you know, that's when I grew my faith with God and stuff. And I started to understand, like, okay, you know, that's why I said the quote, like, we're bigger than our sport. Like, you know, I'm more than just a basketball player. And I think that God was just telling me that, like, you know, I'm more capable than just being a basketball player. I can speak my voice up on human rights. I can be an inspiration to kids or anybody to be their better selves and stuff. You know, I got to take a step forward and embrace that because God could take that blessing away from you as quick as he gave it to you. So, you know, I had a hard time accepting that fact at first, but once once I did accept that and understand that, now I'm okay. Like if this is my only season playing over here, like I'm still okay with that. You know, I understand that God has put out a bigger and better things for me in life to accomplish than just basketball. And, you know, it was hard for me to understand that at first, but, you know, I'm still working on my mental health and how I see things and how I see life, because as I said, I worked with kids and stuff, you know, they're watching, they're always watching and they're learning. Like kids are the smartest humans on this earth because they're learning and retaining so much information, and it's helping them build their identity. So, you know, I try to polish up a lot of things, and I try to be real careful on what I say with kids and stuff, like say to kids and everything, and try to inspire them to do great things. But, you know, my mental health is something that's very important. And it's something that I'll always consider, like, even though 2020 was a bad year, like a wild, crazy year, I'm pretty sure everybody had crazy stuff going on. You know, I'm also thankful for it because, like I said before, God cares about character more than he does what's convenient for you. You know, a lot of inconvenient situations happen for me, but at the end of the day, I stand before you now a better man because of those things.
So preaching left and right. Oh my God. Lily, I want to keep the space open. I just want people to continue to talk, but I'm just sort of looking to you as in terms of any last things that we need to do for the mixed space. And then I've seen Edward just have the best reactions as we've been watching. And I'd love for you to just have a chance to just either thank everyone or just speak. And Laura and Bean, I know you both are still here. So I just want to give folks an opportunity to talk. But Lily, what do we need to do?
Yeah, give it on. I just like Sean, I'm usually someone that has a lot to say, and I don't really have words right now other than continue to hear other people's words. Like, I think that's my favorite part about my job at the mixed space is that I talk about, like, or I'm in community with people to talk about things I don't really have any clue about, as like in comparison to the geniuses that are here and sharing. So this is just it's my job to just listen and lean back.
Yeah. And folks who are here, panelists and such forth, time differences, please, this is now just an open space. So feel free to stay and chat or just leave us. But thank you once again, everyone, for being here. Edward, please.
Hey, my name's Edward. You know, this has really helped me. I went back to being a swimmer, a competitive swimmer, and it's around my house. And it's like high school, we did win 2 championships, and then after that, you know, stuff happened. My mom mysteriously died. I had to take care of my sister, and I didn't go to a university because I couldn't afford it. So I'm here thinking, well, I'm 40 years old, and this and that, and by hearing you guys talk, like I was thinking, I wish I could have done this or done that, but you know, like I think every sport is different. Like if it was hockey, I don't think y'all would ever let me back on the ice. And then so for swimming, I've been inside the pool with them, you know, for the pandemic. You know, they've been open, so I went in there. And I did my first, you know, event, which I never thought that I would ever have the chance to do again as an adult. And I'm not like, you know, a guy that's going to college and going, you know, inside the sport. And I don't think I'm a multi-tasker. But my thing is, once I was there, like I see like older guys there, and they're all white, and then I'm the only one that's brown, or there's one more guy that's brown, but now that they changed our times, I'm the only one that's brown. But everybody around me is nice. I'm not saying they're mean. They're just nice, and they're actually helping me because they're older than me, and so but I'm there saying to myself, now that I'm hearing this, you know, I should, you know, pursue it for like a year or two, and you know, work out, which I didn't do when I was in high school because I was, you know, young. But I just saw that movie Miracle about hockey. So all of this makes more sense, and I don't think with me, like, I'm there just to see where I land. My dad was a professional boxer. He's one of, like, he went to the highest things of, what I mean? He's one of those guys. So I grew up around, a guy that has done a lot more, but I don't like boxing like I do swimming. That's me. But I'm thinking, if I liked hockey the way I like swimming, I would have to done everything when I was like 18 and 19. So I'm really now just, I'm very thankful that my sport at my age allowed me to go back in it, and compete. And seeing guys like Michael, you know, Phelps, by watching him throughout the years, I mean, I saw him in me. Like, I saw that he's even not my dream. You know what I mean? So I am his fan. So hearing other people inside other sports, I was gonna say, like, as do y'all have, like, are you guys going to think about having like a memoir out? Because I'm reading a lot of those now. I'm reading a lot of what they should have said, but now they say now inside of books. And so I'm reading those, and it's really helping me understand that they're more just than an athlete. I'm getting to know their backgrounds, their moms, their dads, and I was gonna ask if any of the hockey players and basketball players here are thinking about that, because I read books now. So I just wanted to thank y'all for having this, because it's putting a lot more in perspective, and I don't feel I lost anything as a younger kid. And I did go to college to get my degree, so now I'm where I'm at. So that's where I'm at. So this helped me a lot. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know, Romeo, Lance, Chucky, are you guys thinking about writing memoirs? That could be something cool. Even Sean, you should write a memoir.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, because that's something I have been. Wait, can you define to me what's a memoir? Does that just mean a book, or?
Yeah, look, like a memoir.
It's like a telling of your experience.
One day,
yeah.
I would love to write a memoir.
Sean, yeah, you should.
Since I've been out here, I've been putting like my inner thoughts on like my voice recording on my phone. I do plan. I don't know how to start the process of writing a book. I do one day want to, though. Like I said, as I was going through this process of finding myself, I do want to write a book, just about like everything I've been through, my experience, my mind process on how I think about things and stuff. So that is something I do want to get into, because like I said, there's a lot of kids where I'm from who want to make it out, but they just don't know how. They don't understand unless they're like very fortunate or lucky. So I want to do it to like kind of be a path of inspiration for them in some sort of way.
Lance, Romeo, would you guys write a book?
I mean, I would. A lot of hockey players, even former hockey players in their later life, they do write memoirs or write books about their journey or their experience on how they got up to where they were. It's like there's guys like Zdeno Chara who play in the league still, and they're like 40 years old. You have NHL great legends like Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe who write books. Bobby Orr. I read the book Orr by Bobby Orr, and I got to hear about his whole situation in the path and how did he get to the NHL and what it was like, not in this type of day, but in the old days, what was expected out of players and how did they, deal with things, if they didn't have to, certain equipment or whatever they came from. It does help, and it does open eyes to a lot of younger populations of kids that, who may think, oh, I don't think I'm good enough for this sport because of either my skin color or what type of equipment I have or this or that. It's not that. It's if you read more in the story and you relate to it a little bit, and you think to yourself, if he can do it, I can do it. Maybe words or something a person may tell you word to word in front of you may not get through correctly. But if you read it through a book and you listen to all the journeys and all of the things that he had to go through and obstacles to get to where he was, maybe you'll process it a little better and you'll think to yourself like, wow, if he did that, I'm going to do it now because I feel like I can. There's no I can't. There's always I can. I can and I will.
I love that. Opening it up to the floor. Anyone want to talk about, there's a lot of identity stuff that I heard. There's a lot of, obviously we just talked a lot about sports. I mean,
Bean or Laura, is there anything you want to say?
Urban.
Also holding space to hear your voices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just very thankful to have heard everyone's experiences. There's so much that I just learned, and it's like soaking inside me. That is just amazing. And I'm just so happy that there are, when people tell you to be silent, that you're not, and that you have a space to talk and just say what you want to say and grow. Because when you speak out for what you believe in and what's right, there's always going to be someone there telling you no, and to keep going and be able, I'm just so happy that there are people here giving other people, elevating their voices and giving other people the chance to grow. And that's just so inspiring and amazing.
I just want to add on that a little bit. Yeah, we live in a country where there's freedom of speech. Everybody should have the right to speak up for themselves. There shouldn't be anyone who should be afraid to speak. And listen, there are people who are going to try to stop you from, getting your word out or hearing you speak up for yourself. They're just the ones that they can't deny the fact that you're right. They don't want to hear your voice of words and them being corrected out of the wrong. So when people try to step in and change your words or even try to tell you, you can't say this or you can't say that because of this or that, don't listen to that. That's just them trying to stop you from doing what you do and being a strong and confident individual that's trying to stand out and help open eyes of other people around you. That's what you got to take notes on.
I did take a note on that. I actually got a note when Trey said something really similar to that. He said, people are just upset because you know what you're doing. And I was like, it was so good. I have to leave in just a minute here, but I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on and for sharing your stories, especially Romeo and Lance, because you guys are a little bit younger and still learning things. So, but yeah, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. I got to head out though, but bye everybody. Thank you for a wonderful time.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, piggyback off of that.
Feedback form, please.
Oh yes, Laura, please. There's a feedback form.
I did see the links. Yeah, I'm going to try and take down everybody's socials before I go, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, Romeo, hearing you talk is nuts. Like, speaking from not a team member as just myself, we're really close in age. I'm like a year older than you. And hearing you talk about your struggles and like the dedication, I mean, I used to dance. I was in a pre-professional ballet program before I got injured, coincidentally. But that dedication, I thought it was a lot. And it was like 3 days a week and then one weekend. But just hearing you and Lance talk about being in high school, there's no way. Yeah. There's no way I did the city commute. Like, I had to commute from my school. Like, I was eating in the car, changing in the car, just to go to dance. And it's crazy hearing your.
Yeah.
For me too, it's like we bring it back to the mental health, because that was a thing for me. It's like mental health is, I feel for me now, everything. Like, mental health is everything. And when I was no, actors are athletes too. I remember one time I was reading a book by Anne Bogart, who's a really big theater director, and I was big in the theater. And she said she was talking about the science behind doing a monologue. And she was saying that an actor standing on stage for like 3 to 4 minutes doing a monologue actually ends up using a similar amount of energy than an Olympic jumper, someone who's like doing high jump. And that really brought home to me how being an actor, being a performer is athletic in and of itself, and that there's similarities between the way that performers train and the way that professional athletes train. And what really brought home for me was the connection between my physical health and my mental health, and that the body breaks down as the mind breaks down, as our heart breaks down. And so if we, it's interesting to me too, you were saying, Lance, actually, you were saying, I don't know if you can still hear me. If not, it's fine. But you said you're going to keep going till the wheels fall off. And that made me think about like, what are you doing now to like take care of yourself? Like, what does self-care mean to you? What does it mean to take care of your body and to prepare yourself for that to not happen and for you to not, feel used when you're not even 21 yet?
My mom is a personal trainer and she's also a yogi. So she's always been able to help me with like certain things like that. That's to answer your question.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I also just want to, and sorry, everyone, I am by my dad's and my dad walked in and started yelling at me in Spanish. But I just wanted to say that, Sean, I want to just shout out you as well. I mean, hearing what the other players have gone through, and then hearing how you truly like view Lance and Romeo as a family. Like, I've heard the love through the way that you talk about them, and just hearing that is incredible and very inspiring. Cause like in my, growing up, I didn't have that from different instructors that I had. And also, I do just want to shout out that Trey said that he appreciates what you're doing. He texted me and told me to say that. So
this has been such a pleasure, and I'm so glad that we could be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
It's great to have you on there.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Chucky. Thank you, Romeo. Thank you, Lance. And thank you again, Sean. And I think this is a good time for us to take ourselves off mute and just kind of wave our hands and say goodbye.
Unless, Chucky, did you want to add something quickly? Because I saw you took yourself off mute. Did you want to add?
No, I mean, I don't know if Sean left already, but I just want to tell him I appreciate what he's doing. For you to be a mentor to those two, like, I know we're in the moment now, but you like understand it from outside the box, the love that you're showing them, how it's unconditional. That's all that they're seeing as they're coming up, because they're young right now. And I'm sure that that's all that they're going to know. So now whenever they get to a point where they can help someone else young, whenever they get to a point, whenever they can help someone else that's young, they're going to be doing the same thing. And then that's just going to domino effect. So, I mean, it's small acts of kindness like that, I appreciate so much. And, those things are very important. And
thank you.
And Ro and Lance, I appreciate y'all. I'll be honest, like, I've never played hockey before in my life. And so I don't know half of the things that you guys are facing or going through, as well as even learning the sport and perfecting your craft at it. You guys are doing the thing right now. Like I said, we got our social medias. I think y'all just follow me on there. I want to keep in touch with y'all, and I want to learn a little bit more from y'all.
Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm always on my phone, as every other person. So if you gotta stay, if you gotta message me or hit me up and just talk a quick minute, I'm always down for a conversation. This is what I love doing. I love conversating with people. I love making new friends always. That's me. And that's what I'm known for making new friends. My dad as well. A lot of people in the hockey community.
Bobby Hockey.
Oh, Sean will tell you, my dad is sometimes when it comes to being in that stands and yelling. People will come up to me and they don't even know me for me. They just know me because of my dad. They'll be like, hey, you're the one whose dad who's always yelling in the stands and saying all this, let's go out, so let's go out. I'm like, yeah, how do you know? It's like, come on, your dad is one of the craziest people I've ever met. That's where I guess I kind of come in the phase of knowing a lot of people. So, but don't be afraid to reach out. I'm not a stranger. I love conversating with everyone. Feel free to hit me up whenever.
Thanks, guys.
Our meetup is recorded, and so a big part of this is gonna be on YouTube. And I think that's just the last thing I want to say is how this conversation is gonna live on, and it's gonna continue to reach the ears that need to hear it the most, and reach the hearts that need to hear it the most. And that's what makes your work even more powerful, because it's not just the community that was here today and the community that already knows about what you're doing. It's like so many people who you're touching in ways that you could never even imagine. And you know that already from your fans and from the folks that follow you. But I think that's also a unique thing about the mixed space, is that there's so many different people that are coming to our work from so many different perspectives, and everyone's going to be able to learn from you and heal from you. So I appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys for having me on here. And I hope to be talking with you guys again on one of these, because this was actually fun. And I can't wait for the next time for this to all happen again. And hopefully it could be in person one day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Throwback to when we had in-person meetups.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
All right, bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, our panelists. Thank you, everyone who stayed. I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, we appreciate it.